This is another episode of Summoning Insight, not by the numbers, but you might think it was by the numbers because we're going to start with a segment that I like to call Petty Grievances. So what happened was one of us actually tweeted something that was perceived by a national fan base to be incendiary, and they called in, they fucking lit the fires of Gondor or whatever that shit was in Lord of the Rings. The swarm of people came in to destroy the evil. You're all thinking, what's Thorin been up to now? I know he's doing that Turkish thing. And say, no, it's not that. It's Monte this time. So, Monte, what have you been up to, mate? Why is everyone hating you? I'm just watching I'm not even in this one. I'm just from the sidelines, like, bloody hell, the BDS and the quote retweets, Monte. Like,
I had an opinion yesterday after watching.
What have you done that for?
My
You're
opinions.
supposed to have opinions. You're supposed to focus group what Azuma thinks and tell him it back, along with an advertisement for some sort of a snack that he could eat while watching the match. Oh shit! With the LEC formula, shit.
I had an opinion after watching the G2 BDS games, in which there were lane swaps.
I'm sure many opinions. Yeah, sure.
I had many opinions actually, but one opinion in particular was that I think that it is likely, in my expert opinion, that there was some level of scrim leak that resulted in a very strange play by BDS in game one of their series.
So you don't think that they just have next level Mithy-like geniuses that can just read the game and be like, he's doing this, go there, like a Sherlock episode or something, like, I see by the brush of sand on your collar, you've just come back from Algeria, haven't you? And while you were there, of course, you went into the market and you bought something and you had to lean right round because you had sunburn on this part. We're supposed to believe that this team, who, by the way, can't ever do like laning phase mid-game, they just wait at team fights for teams to throw into them. We're supposed to believe they're just now like, he's going there. Macro gods. Lisan Al-Gib. Oh my God. It's him. It's Adam. Lisan Al-Gib. I can't handle it. How's this real life? I know.
And I will admit that my mistake.
They didn't even make it look legit. They just went straight there, didn't they? Like a classic Korean when they leak the scrims and they just anti-yours like 6 pool or something. They just go straight to it.
So I will explain in detail in a little bit why I think that this was the case. And also, for you guys wondering out there, why I would be the only one saying this is because there isn't definitive evidence. This is just me.
Oh, no, it's speculation, of course. Yeah,
it's my speculation based on watching this. And I will actually be releasing a video on this on my channel where I show you guys exactly.
GG MonteCristo, look at the channel.
GG MonteCristo on YouTube. Why I think, and I think the overall balance is that there was some behind the scenes information, or the only two things that this could be, guys, is that it was either behind the scenes information, or they decided to flip to burger flip the entire game at level 1. And I don't think that BDS is dumb enough to do that in the playoffs. And there was a lot of questions about this from people who literally don't know anything about lane swaps. And there was a lot of kind of interference that people were trying to run. First off, by talking about the game 4 between NIP and FPX, which featured a lane swap. That was really nothing like this, by the way. So just because a different team in a different region does a lane swap doesn't mean that you make the play that BDS does in game 1 of this series. And secondly, that because BDS last year did some Scion cheese where they threatened to dive a turret early with Scion with the same lineup except for Crown Shot instead of Ice, that this is somehow they know this, and they know how to lane swap, and they would have made this play. It's an entirely different play. It was in a 2v2 tower dive scenario that they also hilariously misplayed. I went back and watched it. But just because there are an infinite number of level 1 or early game Scion cheeses that can happen thanks to Scion passive is not an indication that this was, a good play by BDS. And I shouldn't have done this on Twitter, to be fair. I should have just made my video, which explains it in depth, because the reception that I got was a bunch of people who are teenagers or 20-year-olds telling me about lane swaps when they were literally 13 or younger when these lane swaps were occurring, and they certainly don't understand them.
I mean, some of them might actually be 4 years old if you think about it. It's actually possible. By the way, obviously, we'll go into the depth of that. But yeah, go on. Tell me, finish this point off.
Yeah. I will go into depth about it in a few minutes about why I think so. But like, let's just put it this way: you don't on red side, you don't 5-man topside jungle if you aren't really convinced that they're going to invade you with the lane swap. And like, you could literally just completely get bodied if they don't lane swap. Or if they do a different kind of strategy. And so that's why I think it's very unlikely, given the level 1 that BDS did, that they didn't have some level of inkling in advance.
Well, you know what? Whether it's remade solo queue lobby after remade solo queue lobby, Monte on Twitter, or just the LEC playoffs in general, you, like me, are no doubt left feeling unsatisfied and still hungry for something better when you're gaming nowadays. Well, oh boy, do we at Last Free Nation have the answer for you. Because Factor has 35 options, including Keto Smart, Calorie Smart, Keto, Protein Plus, or Vegan and Veggie. Get Factor's never frozen, just like me when it comes to movie night, chef-prepared meals on the table in only 2 minutes, so you can be back in the game before the minion wave has even spawned. Especially if you know what's going on, like BDS. No prep, no cooking, and no cleanup, kind of like Mad Lions at this point in time. With Factor, you simply heat up the meal and go to town, like G2. Having a hard time with your schedule, whether it be school, yeah, right, work, or a trip away. Well, to be fair, for work, you might get called by that app to come and deliver my meal. Whether you're this scenario, you can pause or reschedule the Factor meals to suit your lifestyle. If only BDS could have exercised that option before the lower bracket run last split, eh? They never returned, did they? Like Monte, when he tires of LEC and looks to the LCK, Factor offers gourmet meals. Watch Chovy Azir Lord shuffling in any and every game with premium ingredients like filet mignon, shrimp, truffle butter, broccolini, and asparagus. I had a fire joke I could have made about that last one, about T1 fans and what I'd like to do, but I won't do that. It's just asparagus. Understand it's a vegetable. How do you get these wonderful meals, you ask? Did you? Well, I just made you. I'm the voice inside your head. Shout out Blink-182. Well, let me first inform you that you can get a whopping 50% off with our special code. Head to factormeals.com/LFN50 and use code LFN50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next box. Anyway, Monty, about the LEC match. Wait, it's the remix. That's Factor Meals, factormeals.com/LFN50 to get 50% off your first box, plus 20% off your next box while your subscription is active. There you go. There'll never be another one like me. There'll never be another one. So if you want to support us and get 50% off, do that. Do what I just said.
That's right. Factor's great, guys. I look forward to using it when I'm back in the States as well, which will be soon. So let me discuss in depth kind of what I think. And I do think we have to at first talk about what scrim leaks are, because I do think that scrim leaks are less common in the West. I am highly confident that there have been Asian teams like leaking scrims to each other, particularly at Worlds. Of course, yes. Like when Korean teams are in opposite sides of the bracket, therefore, they're scrimming against teams in the other side of the bracket as well. And if their goal is to get Korea to win the world championship, I suspect that there is some level of information of scrim sharing that goes on. So there have been numerous like suspicious incidents throughout League of Legends history like this. And to discuss scrim leaks, they're not always like the team records the scrim and then gives the other team the film. Oftentimes it's just players talking to each other, or you just drop kind of like a little bit of a detail here or there, like, oh yeah, this player's playing this, it was good, or like, oh, look at this build. Yeah. And so I don't think, in my supposition that I made on Twitter, I do not think that this was an incident of like, somebody taping G2 secretly and then giving it to BDS. In fact, I think if that had been done, then BDS would have performed significantly better in the lane swap scenario, because they actually just played horribly. This reeks to me like somebody said something like, oh, G2's been lane swapping in scrims like the same day that this game happened or something like that. And also there's also a misconception that everybody must on this team know.
Oh, no, sure. Mate, just the jungle would need to know alone, or the shot
or
calling.
LeBron.
By the way, Yeah, there's an obvious angle here. Yeah, probably just the vision control. There's an obvious parallel to Counter-Strike, Monte, which is one of the reasons why in Counter-Strike, actually, when you watch people play on the T side, they'll often do strats, just like a tennis serve, that start the same way and then diverge into a different option, is because when you run strats that are unique, what happens is the other guy doesn't need to know the whole strat. He just has to know, like, oh, you did the first part, and then if the other in-game leader is smart, he spots that, oh, that smoke there means they're probably doing this, then he can just infer the rest, and you just have a bit. It's just like counting cards. You don't necessarily know exactly what cards come in, but you know if it's likely to be high or low. That's what it looked like here to me, Monty. That's why it's so silly that people are doing the thing with you where they're acting like, if you talk about match fixing, like, so everyone just match fixed the whole result to be a loss. It's like, that's the shittiest straw man ever. What we're saying here is all they had to have had was a hint, and I just don't believe that any of those players that you aforementioned have the spider sense to go, I felt a disturbance in the force. All 5
All right. I'm going to start out, Thorin, with the counter evidence to this that weakens my position. Okay. So first off, Adam said to me on Twitter that Labrov made the call. But again, the point is that only one player, it's not like they're all in a chat room together with everybody in the LEC and like every player's getting this information. And I'm not saying, Labrov was the one who got this, but I am saying all it takes is one other player mentioning to Labrov, oh, there was a lane swap, and not all of the other players or the coaches or anybody on the team would have had to know this. And he could have just gone into this game with it in his mind and said, oh, they're doing it. Okay, there were a lot of suspicious things in this game. And there were some things that lined up with the FPX NIP lane swap in game number 4, particularly that there was a huge bully lane. So if you guys remember, there were a lot of instances this split of FPX playing very aggressive bot lanes, particularly with life support Rumble, where they would want to push and kind of deny the enemy. And that's what kicked off this lane swap. Now, this lane swap was done, both teams had Jinx, so G2 had Jinx and NIP had Jinx. These were the lane swapping teams. But the supports were different. It was Lulu in the case of G2, and it was Nautilus in the case of NIP. NIP also had they were running Udyr in the top lane instead of Sion. And I do think that it is a very big tell for you to blind pick Sion if you are G2 and then select a Lulu Jinx lane when now Ashe hadn't been picked yet, but Varus and Ashe are up. And especially because BDS historically has highly prioritized both of those champions, especially in the winter split. And they're going to run double Hail of Blades in that lane, and it is going to be absolutely miserable. Like, trying to play an Enchanter into Ashe support with Hail of Blades is not fun. And it's clear they would have gotten crushed in lane. And obviously, I think any pro team, their spider senses would have been tingling at a blind pick Sion in this scenario, particularly because the top lane hadn't been picked yet, and many of Adam's champions are quite good into Sion. Okay? So there's that factor already. Now, why Adam didn't take Gragas on R5, especially if they thought there could be a lane swap, but he took Aatrox. Remember, he has been playing a lot of Gragas during his playoffs. Gragas historically has been a much safer top laner to select. Or the Zac. The
obvious joke being, listen, if he wants to let you down one last time, the Aatrox is the one to do it on, isn't it? That's his fucking, that's the fine pencil that you use to do the detailing on your fucking funeral pyre. Mate, he's so fraudulent on Aatrox, it's mad, isn't it? Go on.
Well, and especially it's shit in this lane swap scenario. So you could say, okay, well, why is he doing this if they had any kind of information about the lane swap? All right. These are all good points. They also played the lane swap badly, so if they knew it was coming and they had advanced intel, my answer to that is basically like, it is very different to know this is coming and to have never played against it. Because if you guys actually lived through the lane swap meta, pro teams made tons of mistakes. It took a long time for them to get good at lane swapping.
Dude, you know this, one of the reasons why players, unless they were an Afromu or Mithy, didn't like lane swaps is they got so annoyed that their coach just used to be spending 20 minutes at the beginning of each scrimbot just going over like a fucking lane swap, and they would, to them it was like homework. It was literally, they felt like it was one of those, a train leaves Cleveland at 55 miles an hour, but then another one leaves Pennsylvania. What times it's like, oh, I don't care, can I just leave already, miss, it's recess. Like, that's what they all hate this, because this is why, by the way, Monte and Dylan Falco love this shit.
I love
it's actually the chess of League of Legends, guys.
And the purpose of a lane swap, for those of you who didn't live through this meta like a decade ago, or almost a decade ago when it kind of was patched out, was basically, in the end, the purpose of a lane swap was to deny the enemy top laner levels. That was ultimately the major goal, because it got top laners in a, you could get your top laner very ahead if you were good with it. And it would create scenarios where you could also dodge potentially bad lanes, which is exactly what both G2 and NIP were doing.
I also feel like, if you notice, in the modern day, when they've brought it back, I also feel like sometimes now, dude, they just use it to when they've got a shit bot lane matchup and the other guys are gods in lane, and they're just like, let's get away from that. Like, we'll just sacrifice the top lane to try and get like an even game, basically.
Yeah, and it was, I think legitimately a very good strat by G2. If they wanted to play Han Sama's Jinx and they didn't want, they could bait out the Hail of Blades. It was also that, not many of the players would have been active, even in an amateur sense, on BDS. Like Labrov probably was active in the tier 2 scene when lane swaps were a thing. But on the side, on the side of G2, obviously you had Caps, who was playing in this time. Han Sama was in tier 2 when this was going on. I can tell you because he was literally playing for my team, Renegades. They have more experience. Yike clearly was not, right? Mickey X was most likely active at this time as well. And plus, obviously, they practiced it. They practiced it, which was clear from having watched them. But even they, didn't do it.
And as I say, their coach literally loves lane swaps, guys. Like, he's one of the main people who actually wanted it removed.
I love lane swaps too. Obviously, I was very intrigued to see this both in the LPL and then later on here in the LEC. And I think it was a very good strategy because, as we later heard, the G2 players themselves say, like, they're all these Zoomers on BDS. They've never played this, so we figured we'd get an advantage. And they did. They did. I mean, they played out the lane swap scenarios in general better. But what happens at level 1, guys, is really what's strange, which is that, go watch my video on this so you can see the visual examples if you want. But basically, they see Mickey X in bot side, in the red side jungle of blue side, so bot side jungle, at the start of the game at 49 seconds. And then they just don't see anybody from G2 until about a minute 30. And at that point in time, they have everybody committed to topside jungle for an invade. And remember, had this been the same play that BDS did last year, they would all be in the bot side jungle. G2 would all be in the bot side jungle, invading bot side in order to crash on the second wave and do a tower dive or force a TP. So if you're telling me that this is the same play, it wasn't. It wasn't a lane swap. It's not the same play whatsoever. It's just different Scion cheese. And so they would not have known because they didn't ward in a way where G2 couldn't just walk through the bot lane. And Thorin, on top of that, many times in the current meta, if you suspect that you are going to have a hard time in lane, and especially if there are Hail of Blades users in the bot side, you actually you scrying orb, you get the scrying trinket, and you go sweep all the bot side brushes with 4 or 5 members of your team, so that they don't have brush vision to auto you and get prio on the wave. And it still would have been a very terrible idea to go into a 2v2 versus Varus Ashe, but there was a possibility that all of G2 was sweeping out that vision and then invading bot side jungle, and basically BDS would have never known. And because their bot lane was in the top side jungle, they would have lane swapped, and then G2 wouldn't have lane swapped, and they would have given an advantageous position to G2. So this is why it's hard for me to believe, because they basically coin flipped the game as a 5-man stack with no information in their own jungle. And that's why I said what I said, guys. And if you do not understand lane swaps or level 1s, then you can say, well, it happened with NIP. It was very different with NIP. Just because a lane swap occurs doesn't mean that the same decision tree is followed. Just because BDS did a Scion play last year doesn't mean that they know what's going on in this game. Okay? And like I said, there are a million different Scion cheeses that you can do.
By the way, there's even an extra added like external pressure, which means that if you are BDS and you get even this crumb of insight, you might attempt this, which is BDS get murked by G2 all the fucking time and have since time immemorial. And so as a result, they know that they're just going to lose a straight up best of 5. Like, remember, I just said earlier, the way they win is like they just sort of hold the line and then other teams into them in the mid and late game. Like G2 doesn't do that. G2 just cooks you from minute 1 till the end like a fucking hibachi chef. So that's mental in it, I know.
And here's the thing, like they gave up a lot of kills because they caught the invade with no information at level 1, got the kills, and actually set G2 behind. Now G2 battled back and won the game anyway because, you know, BDS is bad at lane swaps. But there were a lot of factors about that level 1 that are at least suspicious. And yes, as I've said, there is no evidence that there was a scrim leak that I am aware of. And in fact, you know, Shakarez, who listened to comms, said they didn't, he in his opinion in comms, he didn't hear anything that would indicate a scrim leak. My response was, what are they going to say? Here's what they leaked in scrims. No, they're just gonna be like, it's a lane swap. They're just gonna say it's a lane swap. Do this thing. They're not gonna like. I mean, it is esports. Sometimes you get the Lena double lift like smoking gun recording, but because this industry is stupid. But I don't think that they would do that. First off, because there's no need to say
but
it.
he's using that. He's using the logical fallacy that absence of evidence is like evidence of absence. Like it doesn't exist. Or like that. Obviously, in this case, like Monte says, you could even say the same thing before you went on stage. Then just go, remember the plan, guys, and that would never come across as like a scrim leak, would it? That's what the game plan. You know, so give me a break.
I would encourage you guys to watch my video. And you can either say there's only really 2 conclusions, which is that they were either willing to completely flip with no information a game at level 1, or they had a very strong inclination for whatever reason that this was definitely going to be a topside invade. Even though, in my opinion, okay, to be clear, I think that was the most likely thing that could have happened, but there were also many other scenarios that could have happened, and there was no good vision control from BDS to let them know. They didn't do traditional lane swap wards, right?
By the way, Monte's exact wording, I even just went back and checked it, because to be fair, Monte's not a journalist. I don't know whether he would phrase it this way. You'll notice, right, I never, in fact, there's one instance I found in the past, I've even apologized to this player. I never would say, like, this guy's cheating, when it's just something I'm guessing, right? Because as a journalist, that'd be mental. Like, how can I make that claim? It's a factual claim, isn't it? Like, that's a claim about objective reality. I could say, though, I think he's cheating. That's very different. That's an opinion. That's speculation. Monte said, I think. The sentence starts, I think it's clear as day. It didn't say, they definitely lane swapped, because all the people are like, where's your evidence? First of all, you disingenuous little fucking pauper. You've never gone off evidence ever in your motherfucking life. In fact, when evidence goes completely 180 against what you want to believe is true, you choose to ignore evidence like you were out of fucking Westworld, my dude. So the idea, first of all, we have to have evidence. And then secondly, what evidence are we going to have, you fucking bozo? An actual recording of them talking. Again, I know the saddest thing about the Lena double lift thing is they actually that made people think that was a reasonable demand because it happened. It's like, no, that was just essentially the power of manifestation. That was the ultimate occult secret of single pointed awareness, which then turns light into matter. And I actually created from my own mind a singularity of pure hatred to TSM that manifested in a microphone turning itself on a Lenovo PC inside Double Lift and Lena's apartment. I couldn't have known Dardock was also about to be shopped. That was just a one-man play. And I never would hack into anyone's PC. I'd never, anyway.
I'm just going to point this out here merely as a legal claim, but expert testimony is in fact submissible evidence in court. You know, somebody who is an expert in a field can be called to the stand as a witness and write a report in favor of a certain, you know, outcome, right?
Well, yeah, I would love to see the defense get their chance to cross-examine you, though, Monte. Like, MonteCristo, I see in 2013 you said KT Rolster would be the best. Is that not correct, sir? Like, no, there's different. Sir, answer. Yeah, it's a yes or no answer, please, sir. We're just establishing. But overall, Objection. What's the problem? That's irrelevant to the case. No, I'm just establishing the background that he's an unreliable. Whatever. I'd love to see that.
Look at his shitty. Look at his shitty predictions about KT.
Exhibit A, and it's just like the picture of the LCS table where Renegades is at the bottom before Freeze got there. Like, we should do a skit like that. Someone write that down. That would actually be a banging skit. Because if you don't know, by the way, guys, we will absolutely do skits wrecking ourselves.
Of course.
Of course.
Yeah, I don't mind. I don't mind this. And so, basically, like, this is going to be a scenario where, obviously, guys, I have no evidence. I just have years of watching lane swaps.
It's a gut feel.
And I think this has a slight stink of fish to it,
I also just love the thing you said before. Like, here's the thing. If you hate Monte, there's only two approaches you can take, guys. It's like, I think he's wrong and he's a hater. That's one angle. It's called cognitive dissonance. Or you can just say, I think you're wrong. Right? Here's what you can't say. Here's how lane swaps work, Monte. You know what I mean? Like that, at that point in time, like I have the whole time in Counter-Strike my entire. If you think this is bad, Monte, at least your game's only been running about 10, 12 years. Because I'll tell you the one that will actually drive you crazy. If you think the Faker one is bad, bro, I used to have people who'd only watched CSGO tell me what Forest was like in CS 1.6. And are you ready for the punchline? I always tell people. Because at the end of 1.6, Forest was on the team I worked for. I used to stand behind Forest and watch over his shoulder like the greatest POV demo of all time while he played. But they then would tell me how good he was and that I'm wrong because I hate Forest and he doesn't know who I am. Like, when that's like some level of gaslighting that, like, you just got to get away from it, mate. If you get trapped in that, you'll be like quicksand. No matter how much you fight against it, you will be sucked to the bottom. So we've got to rise above this shit. We've got to rise above, Monte. Much like the hardcore scene, we've got to rise above.
Yeah, I'm not going to engage in this anymore. Like, I am happy to let my video speak for itself. And like I said in my video, you guys can decide whether you think, with the evidence that I provide in this video, that this was a reasonable assumption of where they would be, or if they had, some level of information. I don't think they had scrim footage. I think what they knew was short at some time, probably less than 24 hours before the match. They probably caught wind that G2 had been lane swapping. As I also said to Yamato on Twitter, I think this would be more believable if there was the pre-recorded draft still, Thorin, and they had 20 minutes to formulate a plan. What also stretches credulity is that this is a playoff match and they did this like immediately after the draft ended. So, I mean, credit to Lebrov. The thing is, it ended up very well for them, but you can actually see how this could have been disastrous. But you have confirmation bias because it happened the way it happened. And they still lost the game. And they still played the lane swap badly. That said, it was very, to talk about the match more specifically, I think it was a very well played match by G2. It wasn't perfect in terms of the lane swap. I think, obviously Broken Blade is new to this. And they didn't play it flawlessly. But I think game one, if they hadn't gotten caught out at that level 1, it would have been very different. And we actually saw later on in the series how gimped Adam was as he played Aatrox more for reasons that I do not understand. But also, I mean, there were some...
question for you.
Yeah.
But you want to actually get into some of the match? You want to talk about the match?
Yeah.
I've got a question for you. Everyone loves to come back at me. This is one of the weirdest angles ever, Monte, because you know this. My specialty was actually something you pointed out years ago, and I realized you're right. One of my specialties is player performance. I can watch a lot of players. I can watch the same player and see, like, is this a fluke? Are they actually this good? Are they going down? And generally, I have a pretty good eye for it. In CS, I'm better, and actually, I'm very good at esports talent, if people don't know. That's why in games like Counter-Strike, I've picked out a lot of the people. Even in League, I've picked a lot of the people that have become the main people, thinkers, broadcast people. One of the players that everyone loves to dunk on me every time the team's at the top and say I'm wrong wrong. I just don't get it because to me, the eye test angle does not check out at all. And it has always been nuclear int, right? Because here's the thing. He looks like exactly what he is. A player where he plays a few champions well. He literally plays for a team, by the way, where, as you pointed out with the T1 parallels, it's actually an advantage that they have a player that's only going to play 3 or 4 champions because you just build all the comps out of it and everyone knows where you're going. And then also, he is someone who, in general, will revert back to like sometimes a bit conservative play and doesn't always know what he's doing outside the lane. Like, bro, the idea this is some like stud prodigy and I'm just hating on him. It's so mental. And this match right here just shows exactly why I think this guy is so gassed up. It's crazy. Like, essentially, guys, you don't know whether a player's good or bad. You just look at the table of where the league standings are, for fuck's sake. Like, the reason I know this guy isn't great is right now he has to like perma onto Azir because there's nothing else going for him. If people don't know, if he didn't pick Azir all these, he would get cooked in this series, mate. He would have been absolutely reamed by Caps. Like, he's not even in the same universe. It's like that Muhammad Ali quote. If he even dreams he's as good as Caps, he better fucking wake up and apologize and then pick Azir and do nothing. Because, mate, I watch Azir when like Chovy's playing it, bro, and it's like he even does all those like moves that when Faker was good on it a few years ago, where you use all the fucking movement to actually make it look like a mobile champion, like you're going in off the fucking like parkour and stuff. Look, just fucking stands there like, shit, when do I press R? Oh, fuck. Like, this is so whack, mate. Like, Azir every game. And you think that Dylan Falco doesn't know you're going to pick Azir when it's up. He banks on it, you fucking idiot. That's why BDS is so... I said it in the past split, but it's even more so true now, guys. When they're one of our top teams, my God. If they beat Fnatic, all hope is lost for Europe. It's just G2 and Caps at that point, guys.
Well, I really, again, want to give props to BDS's coaching staff because...
Oh, they're killing it.
They're great. And I do think that BDS in general has some pretty good teamwork that has elevated their play significantly.
It's one of the best qualities. Coaching and take cohesiveness. I actually think for real, they have like the 5th best LEC roster, and they're actually able to be like consistently top 3 guys. That's fucking talent. That's talent and coaching stuff there, mate.
Yeah, and it's also, I think, you know, good bonds between the players in order to do this. But they do play kind of a simplified playbook of League of Legends. And it's like I said in Winter, right? They play Ashe, Varus, Jhin, which have they're all 80 carries with long range engage, right? And lockdown. And this split, they pivoted more towards Zeri, right? So actually, what's funny is that
the Ice guy actually had to sort of sleeper hit. He actually been pretty decent this split.
Ice is really good in this series, by the way. I mean, his Lucian game was obviously on point. He was actually quite good in the series overall, but they pivoted their strategy to be more like Crown Shot last year, where, okay, now we're going to do a bunch of Zeri play. Once the Azir comes back, we're prioritizing Azir in the playoffs. Like but I mean, they're playing like long range control mages. They're playing Azir, Karma, Syndra, Hui in the playoffs, and that's fine. I mean, Chovy, plays his ear every time he can get his hands on it because it's just fucking good champion. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with this strategy, but basically, just like they had in Winter, they kind of have a deep enough champion pool playbook where they can survive the ban phase and still play essentially kind of the same way in every single game. But the difference is, in this case, like, they get bamboozled when things go off script, right? Which they did with the lane swap, which is why it was a good strategy. And frankly, it also neutralizes a lot of champions of Adam's champion pool, because a lot of his weird champions are going to be dog shit in lane swaps, right? So I think it was also a good adaptation versus BDS specifically by G2's coaching team. Sheo, they're like first picking Volibear throughout this series, so it's very transparent that they want to play aggressively. But Volibear really does fall off in the late game if you don't get shit done. And Volibear, if you're covering the dives properly, can be difficult. Difficult to operate in the early game in a lane swap situation. Volibear was never part of the lane swap meta, and even though he can turn off towers, like, you still have to ultimately survive that dive. I think that if you look at the way G2 played this, they came in with a very solid game plan of what they wanted to do. They banned the Zeri because here's what they wanted to bait BDS very specifically into playing aggro bot lanes. And they knew, because BDS always does this, the tier list of BDS champions is incredibly obvious.
Oh, it is.
Last split, it was Ashe number one. It was Ashe number one every game, or Varus, right? And in this one, it's just going to be Zeri every time. So you just ban Zeri. You know they're going to default into Ashe Varus if you leave it up. Oh, they're going to play super aggro? All right, we'll just pick Jinx, one of Hans Sama's all-time great champions, and we'll lane swap it and we'll outplay them. Because here's the thing. Broken Blade plays Zac, which is very good in lane swaps. Broken Blade is willing to just slam the Scion.
Also, this is just Dylan Falco. If you don't know, guys, he has all of his ex-players say he's a genius at draft.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Here's why.
He's great.
He actually does an approach. That's another Counter-Strike principle I can give you, which is the standard approach in Counter-Strike with our draft is maps, right? So what you do is if someone's amazing on a map, Monte, you just ban it if you can, right? Obviously, it depends on what the circumstance. But if you can ban it, you ban it. You don't play it, right? He does what the really, really smart IGLs do, which is this. Sometimes if there's like two maps that you're really good on, and like either of them is bad for us, you just essentially set it up so that you will pick the other one, but now I can just prep for it for like a day or 2 days. And I just put all my prep in that. So when you do pick it, I'm the best possible prepared to counter what you did. That's all he does in these drafts. What he doesn't do this. He doesn't, like, this is what's funny. This is where me and Dom can sometimes be wrong. We would just look at the player playing the champion that only has 2 picks and go, just ban them both and he can't even play. And he's like, no. Because one, you don't know what they're going to play against them. They're going to play something weird. It adds variance to the game. What you do instead is you ban one of them and then you build your whole draft strategy that once you bait them into that pick first, that they pick one of the 2 champions, your whole comp's set up to fuck that and make it, and so it doesn't work and it doesn't do what it does early. So like Dylan Falco, mate, he does have the best players, which I'll say does help in this particular
of
sense.
course.
But he is so good at doing this. Like somehow he also, I get the sense, just has an amazing read on other coaching stuff. He almost has the meta analysis of what they're going to do potentially from scrims too. Who knows, right? I'm guessing the guy's just a genius for this one element of the game, certainly.
I mean, he's great. This is why we love him. And he routinely proves this over and over and over and over again.
It's actually one of the other areas that would make G2 cool if they have some success internationally. Like, dude, there's teams that you could get again. Like, if there really is a world, Monte, where Hanwha Life goes to MSI, Dylan Falco could do this against them, mate. They've got certain picks they are going to take in mid and AD, and you could take this approach. It could be quite interesting. That could be the upset material, you'll know.
Well, I think, this has always been a key of G2's play is that they are willing to push the envelope of the meta. I mean, look at what they were doing last year with Mickey X's Lissandra support into Rakan. Like, they will, do these things. They will try the crazy pick. They try and lead the meta, and oftentimes they are very successful in it. And they are correct in the choices. Like, we've seen Caps play Zac mid or Sejuani mid to great effect. So they're very creative. They also have excellent level 1s, right? They are very good at level 1s and level 1 planning. And this is what makes them a good team. This is what makes them a world-class team. And yes, especially in best of 1s, that's why you believe that they can do it. I mean, they literally beat Weibo and D+ in best of 1s at Worlds last year. And Weibo was a Worlds finalist, guys. So they're not a joke team. And they do have more tricks and are more fun to watch in many ways than many other League of Legends teams, Asian teams included. So I don't know, man. Like, this whole thing is just, I found it frustrating, partially because of the way that I chose to word it on Twitter. And then I should have just not put it on Twitter and just let it kind of speak for itself when my video came out. But we'll do that, and maybe some of you will watch it. But I also
from your
think,
perspective, I agree. From my perspective, I'm glad you did do it. I'm glad the shitstorm ensued. I'm glad we get all this content and discussion now. I think that's great.
Yeah,
personally.
yeah.
Especially I'm not involved, so it's cool. I'm just watching with a bit of popcorn. I don't give a fuck, It's actually cool to not be the one within the center of the fucking storm. Just go, bloody hell, look at that. That tornado's about to destroy that house. Holy shit. It's going in America's best home videos.
And here's I will give one little last discussion about Adam. Why in game number 3 are you just standing there waiting to die at the lane? You could have.
The defense of this was crazy. There was casters defending this, and their logic was like, you couldn't do anything anyway, could you? It's like, first of all, dumb. I'll tell you a concept that comes from Counter-Strike 2. It's called attrition, you fucking idiot. Any time you can waste, any ults you can bait, any abilities you can use, any actives you can draw out, any summoner spells you can force, any fucking damage you can even do, potentially gives a more chance to win the game. Do you actually need, you dumb fuck casters, the thing on the screen that you have in certain games like Counter-Strike where it just shows like the chances of winning and it goes like up to like 99% when you're almost won and it's like 49% with TV. Do you need that on the screen to tell you if a player is actually having a net negative or positive effect? Can't you just essentially argue the other one, guys? Argue the net positive effect of standing still.
Yeah, of doing nothing, of clearly, like, also, you know, if you stand
playing Aatrox, for fuck's sake, it's one of the best ones to just waste time and fuck with people.
He also nearly killed Caps on Aurelion Sol after standing there doing nothing, and it was clear that G2 was trying to give the kill over to Aurelion Sol. Now, they didn't succeed in doing that, but that's because Adam did something and forced them not to do that, which goes to show that if he tries to do something, then they don't get their way. He also could have, like you said, wasted a bunch of time by running down the lane. You know, there are many things you can do in that situation. And like, I'm just tired of Adam being a goddamn baby and just raging out in games. Remember, this is a guy who like a couple months ago was benched because he couldn't control his infantile behavior in playoffs, which then caused his team most likely to lose to Mad Lions. And now he's just in game 3. Just quitting, because it's not just the effect that he has on that game, it's the mental effect he has on the rest of his team.
Yes.
Like, what the fuck do you think of your teammates?
Someone like Shea or like, oh well, what was I playing for this game? Also, I'll just put this out there, Monty. I'll tell you what I'm sick and tired of. You're probably going to get it too when people figure out your age, mate. It's one thing where they used to go, Monty. Wow, a 37-year-old man is beating up on a 17-year-old kid. He's 22 years old and has been in LEC since 2021. You are aware, right? That is like when fucking Expecke was in season 5, you idiots, and he retired from League of Legends. Like, he has been in LEC for fucking donkey's years, and he is having the kinds of problems a rookie has in fucking 2024. He was in the finals in fucking 2021, guys. He has been to Worlds and MSI. Like, this is, well, not MSI. This is fucking mental. Like, this guy at this point in time, I'm just going to say it. In his game, he has somewhat plateaued. He did expand to some meta champions, but he clearly cannot pivot. You will not see him doing a sick Rek'Sai game. It just won't happen. And also, emotionally, he has just plateaued, mate. He hasn't broken through whatever boundary caused him to get benched. That's how, maybe it's not extreme, so he's not getting benched, but he hasn't broken through. And by the way, he doesn't get this. Even the tone he takes when he comes at people like you and me on Twitter gives the whole game away. There's nothing I love more, if you watch my videos, than letting people's own words speak for themselves, because that is the true fucking like source of who they are. I mean, like, you'll see it leak out.
Adam had a choice in how he responded to me, and instead he decided to be very rude. Instead of just being like, no, man, like, Labrov made this call. I mean, I appreciate the information he gave, and like, I would have responded differently by calling him shit, because he played like shit. But the thing about
here's the thing, if you'd actually been polite to Monte, if you know who Monte is, he would be obliged to be polite in return, you dumb fuck.
Yep. But if you come at me like that, I'm just going to be rude.
Literally. Now, but on the other hand, I don't know about you, but you're on the list of mine anyway, mate. I'm just going ham on you forever. Like, you better win Worlds at this point in time, motherfucker. That's reckless. You better win Worlds. You better actually win that motherfucker now.
Right. And I do think that my points have merit as well. And even if nothing happens, it does look sus what happened in that game. But I think for what Adam did, and not only that, Thorin, in all chat in that game, he literally typed, "Can we forfeit?" in game 3.
Not fucking StarCraft or Quake, you daft cunt. You just play the game until they destroy your Nexus. Listen, you know what? People used to do that in like season 2. It's like a form of like mana, like, well, you've won the game, sir. So I get. You're not trying to rage quit fucking upper bracket games in LEC. You know what?
It's a playoff game.
Bring fucking, who was it? What was his name? What was the fucking guy who replaced him, that old top laner? Who was the one who replaced him last split in the playoffs?
Oh, Gen X?
Yeah, bring Gen X in, mate. Good old German boy, just do what he's told, fucking follow the script. Listen, he ain't fucking rage quit. He wants to play League of Legends. Mate, it's the upper bracket finals. That's another thing, Monty. Here's how I know emotionally this guy doesn't get it. Bro, it is a blessing to be in the upper bracket finals of your fucking region. That is the place where dreams are made of, and you can go to the finals where if you don't get it, mate, you can one day take a cup home to your family and go, I am the champion of Europe. You're fucking raging and trying to quit and accelerate your loss in fucking upper bracket finals. Then you know what, mate? I actually sincerely hope you don't get to play another upper bracket finals. I hope you spend the rest of your career with Giant X and fucking Team Heretics down in that lower bracket playing BO3s that look like abominations and not getting to the fucking finals. And you can just, you know what? You can just watch someone else who you probably don't think this is good. Just fucking cruise to, maybe you can watch Irrelevant go there. Maybe you can watch someone at Photon. Maybe these players can be the upper bracket final. They care. They want to play the game. They play from minute 1 till the Nexus explodes.
Yep. And, you know, frankly, Adam's career has been pretty unimpressive. If we're gonna be honest, he you know, didn't manage to make it on Fnatic, and he is now on a less prestigious roster. During, you know, the time that he has the opportunity to potentially challenge for an LEC title this year, he rages his way out of the roster. And we'll see how he does this time, but ain't looking good. Gotta say that. Maybe they'll make it to the finals again, but it doesn't say good things about Europe. And even though he has his like hilarious champion pool, which everybody loved at Worlds, by the way, Adam, they didn't love it because they thought it was good. It was just funny and a meme. Your champion pool is a fucking meme. You know literally what he doesn't
get, dude? It's like those LPL and LGL and like VCS teams where they have the player that's good on one champ. You're just watching it as like a freak show. Like, hey, let him have it. Let's see what happens.
Let me tell it to you straight, Adam. You were a liability at Worlds because you couldn't play Rumble, so your own team had to ban it. And you can sort of play Rumble now, and you can sort of play Gragas. His Gragas in team fights has been good. I will give credit where it's deserved, but he can't lane with Gragas. He's not particularly adept at that. You should have lost to Vitality in that best of 3. It's actually embarrassing to Vitality that you guys even won that series. It's disgraceful. Photon is a million times better than you.
He was working him, man. He was working him, I know.
There are a lot of top laners that are a million times better than you, and you still have barely grown as a player. You got your champs, dude. You're like the Zeka of top lanes, but you don't have a world championship.
We're no worlds, yeah.
You can't even peak that high. You can't even peak high enough to win Europe, buddy. And every time you try and make some kind of statement publicly, like what you did with your buddy Upset back in Fnatic, you end up looking like even more of a, and this is a French word, douche. So I hope you can understand that.
Also, by the way, remember the last fucking series as well was that one where he just built Rod of Ages. And it was never, ever going to ever be viable. I know, I mean, even though
here's the other thing. Here's the other thing that has G2 laughing at you, Adam, is that you are the last player with the cognitive capability to figure out how to play a lane swap in-game. You are confused by basic laning. You will never figure out a lane swap. So actually, this was the perfect strategy to use against you because you simply aren't savvy enough or canny enough to get it. So I hope everybody lane swaps on you.
By the way, low key, I'll just present one final thing, which is complete nonsense, circumstantial evidence. This would be thrown out of court. There would be overruled immediately in the fucking witness stand, which is, I also would suggest, Monty, here's why I think they might have had a hint that the lane swap was coming. Because if you think you could just lane swap into Adam and then he'd be like, it's totally fine. Like, he would obviously be, what's they doing? They're into the wrong fucking lane. Let's get, go next. FF. This game is fucking over. hey, Labra, what are you doing? You do not even tell me he is coming to my lane? Fucking hell.
He's really not beating the French surrender allegations, is he? He's really not beating those allegations. He's like waving a white flag in game number 3 of this series. And by the way, like, it's just bad behavior, even if it was over. You know, you're right, Adam. It was over. You got bodied. You got wrecked. If it was a scrim, you probably would have, you know, FF.
Oh, it's actually no biggie. Yeah, whatever.
Whatever. But here's what it does. If you are 1-1 in this series and you're in game 3, and by the way, you did a great job winning game number 2. Ice popped the fuck off on Lucian. Looked great. I think he played really well. You guys won. You beat G2.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
back to your best. You're just a distraction while the ADC, this time, a guy that no one even knows from Korea and no one cared about even when he's on Live Sandbox, just goes to work and carries on Meta Champion. So welcome back to where we were before that like brief period in winter where you got to be cool and be the carry. Also, yeah, you was waving the red flag, you blew it, and then you ended up with your own red blood all over the flag. So in the end, it was France after all. France after all. France after all.
So...
And you'll know Napoleon, so you'll know Napoleon.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this was a series that was just a brilliant strategy by G2 to use, and they weren't very well versed in it. It's not a meta that was 10 years ago where every team practiced this ad nauseum and
you have to
had
remember,
it down.
At this point in G2's arc, the LEC Playoffs upper bracket, because it means you still have an extra life, is also part of their scrim block. You have to realize what. So it made perfect sense that since now BDS in theory would actually be engaged, unlike when they get their ass beat in scrims. Now actually is the best time to experiment because you see if it actually works. You go, oh, yeah, it was a bit tricky, but we did sort of win with it. You know what? We'll just bench that and work on it a bit more. It's like, that's the upper bracket finals and they're doing shit like this, guys. Like, are we ever going to punish these guys? I've got a quick question for you, actually, Monty, because I have two problems with this whole narrative, which is accurate, by the way, that Caps is like back to like ridiculous form. And it just means that like basically you can't beat G2 anywhere. Even if you got all the rest of it solved, the draft, the problem is Caps also just has those games where no one can reach his level. He goes to a 10 out of 10 in Europe and everyone else can go to a 9 or an 8 at best. I'm being generous to some of the mid laners there. I think more like Humanoid goes to an 8.5, if you know what I mean. Like, so in this world, the problem is, because I've watched esports for too long, it makes me think of two obvious things. One can never happen, which is, do I have to keep watching him play against Snook a million times? Can I not just see him play every week against Knight, Chovy? You know what I mean? Fuck it. People like Xiaohu, by the way, are smart. They won't just get their ass under them 24/7 and just get beaten by hands all day long. There's people out. Rookie, by the way, is cooking in the LPL players. People don't know. There's either let me have, like Counter-Strike, him go to the next level and we have the Super League and they just play. And by the way, I'll tune in for every fucking game of that. That will be insane to watch those matches. Or the other angle is this. If everyone in Europe's going to go, Caps is just unbeatable. He's a genius. Every single championship, everyone wins with Caps. Well, you know what? I'd like to test that premise, which is, can I please stop having him on the most loaded G2 and Fnatic rosters? Because you know what? I agree with you. I think he's far and away the best, but I think that is playing into one of my worst fan narratives ever, which is the notion that like anyone could play one. Well, if that's true, I'm willing to those are acceptable terms to me. So let's do the following. I want to take Caps out of G2, pick any other mid laner, put him in there. You can pick Humanoid, take whoever you want, take whoever you want. And I want you to put Caps onto a team like, I mean, an obvious one would be, I won't make it two, but I won't make him go bottom of the league, but let's put him onto like Giant X. How about that? Put Caps on Giant X and let's see him go to work.
You know, it's
I'll
weird.
tell you what, Monty, low key, I actually find that's one of the most perfect times for the eye test. Like, you know this. Right now is when you know Viper is maybe the best ADC because he can't win some of these games, but he almost makes it happen. You know what I mean? He has games, mate, when no one else is even going and he's on like the champion that can be like target and he still cooks. He still gets those kills. He still makes you believe it's possible. So let me see that Caps struggle. Let me see that arc. I want to see how it would be sick shit for Caps, but it'd be sick for me to see how sick he is. You know what's
funny, Thorin, is that we've kind of seen this because who is G2's second best player? Mickey X. Remember when Mickey X was on Excel? I remember.
Yeah, true. I was even an MVP candidate at that point in time, yeah.
It was great. And if you don't think he elevated XL's play during that split, you are crazy. It was a huge upgrade for them. And yeah, his role is not as carry or impactful as a mid laner, but Mickey X, like Caps, is a world-class player in his own right. And really, the shame of it, Thorin, is that we don't have a more robust international circuit or a way for G2 to reliably play against top Korean and Chinese teams. Because this is my opinion, and as I've said many times before, if we had a Super League and G2 is permanently living in Korea, this would be a team that could be top 4 in the world. The talent is there.
You know, the only thing I've realized, this is how doomed esports is. My first thought when you said that was, hey, at least that Esports World Cup's coming. Did I say that out loud? What have I become? What have I become? Because you know this, Monty. It's like all those stupid political, like partisan issues over the NFL. It's like, guys, I don't believe the kind of person who sits and watches the NFL with a giant pizza and a 6-pack of a certain type of beer that's a fucking shit like beer would then go, turn it off. Politics has ruined the game. You're going to watch anyway. You know what I mean, mate? Like, you're going to watch it. Let's just be real. Of course, we're all watching. We're all watching, mate. We're still going to keep watching. It's like that old quote, one of my favorite of all time. It's a real tweet. It's from like 2012 or something by Donald Trump, where it just says something like Coca-Cola, like it's something like Coca-Cola criticized me or whatever. And he goes, I don't care. I'll still keep drinking that trash. It's like, it's such a like, what? Whoa, what? And it's like, there's something, it does something in your brain when you think about it. It's like, it's funny, but also like, what? But then you're also like, it's all true. Yeah, who gives a shit? You're still going to drink it out. So don't worry about it. I'm going to watch. Don't worry. I'll watch.
Of course. We'll watch. We'll talk about it. We'll make money off of it, but we won't make money from the Saudi government.
At the moment, my biggest thrill, though, is just waiting for that like talent announcement to drop. Just for petty reasons, guys. Just for petty reasons.
Thorin, you realize they're not going to do a talent announcement, right?
I think they will. I think these people are so stupid they will, mate. After seeing what ESL's done, they'll do it, in my opinion. I think they will.
I think that they will try, and the talent will be like, no, we don't want an announcement, and then they'll just show up on the broadcast day of. That's what I think is going to happen.
The idea that the talent are going to say no to something from the Saudis, I think that ship sailed. I believe that was in 2020.
We'll see. We'll see. I'm excited.
The only reason low-key as well, I am also low-key sad though, is if I could wish one thing, that like wish you were here, if I could bring one person back, obviously I'd just bring good old Frostcorin back.
This would be amazing.
I'd just settle her right in. And then I'd go, don't you want to cast an international league with the LPL teams playing? They're very good right now. They might win. Oh, I'd love that. I'd fucking love that. Mate. It'd be so good. It'd be so fucking good. Just the dilemma of, do you pick it? Do you not? Do I pick it? Do I not? Do I pick it? Do I not? Oh, I'd fucking love it. I'd love it, mate. What a world.
So, yeah.
LEC is just a bit cooked at the moment, guys. That's why actually the irony is lane swaps actually is what's giving it a bit more interest. Like it's trying to show us, yeah, maybe there's some element there. Maybe they'll do it. I mean, by the way, as Monte pointed out, the LPL teams actually that did some of this didn't even do it as well. Like even they scoffed it. So there's a lot there potentially within these lane swaps. If you can actually ever get to a tournament where they're viable, that would be a very interesting wrinkle. Because if people don't know, there's another detail Monte knows. 9 years ago, when lane swaps were at their height, Europe pioneered them, mastered them, and even Koreans had to literally go like, we better learn what this shit is. And if it wasn't for Riot fucking with the patches, it would still exist. If you don't know, guys, Riot literally changed those towers, the resistances, and then the plates to stop this existing. Like, as in, Riot is so mental that when a brand new strategy and metagame approach emerges, they go, destroy it. Because
it is unlike solo queue.
I know.
It must be destroyed. And it was sad because people like me love lane swaps.
Of course.
And I think they add strategic depth to the game. And the way that they did this, guys, is that they added fortification to the mid and top lane turrets, which means that turrets take 50% less damage in mid and top lane in the first 5 minutes of the game. Now, obviously, this is hugely impactful with plates because if you lane swap, you're going to get fewer plates, therefore less gold in the early game. But if you guys watch my actual edited breakdown of G2 versus BDS, I talk about the timings, when the fortification is going down and the things that G2 is doing to kind of dodge this, kind of by constantly swapping back and forth and getting tempo advantage on swapping, the Sion and the Jinx into opposite sides of the map. So it's very well done. I think it's very well done. Things have changed in lane swaps because the meta isn't the same. There's new champions. The fortification exists. So it's fun. Like, I thought it was fun to watch. It was very fun to watch. I really enjoyed it. I hope we see more of it. And besides Thorin, it's too late to nerf it now. So if we do see this at MSI, which I think we probably will see a little bit of it at least, we might see it in LCK Playoffs too, especially if T1 tries to do like double Hail of Blades in the bot lane, right?
Oh, by the way, I'm sure you've probably already addressed it on the Monte Wolf show or whatever. But bro, I think I have a take. I didn't hear your side. I'm not going to speculate what yours was. But this take, here's what's sad. So when you know how to read between the lines, sometimes even a win isn't a win in esports. Obviously, people like me, you, and Dom are supposed to go like, lol, Faker even agrees with us and not the fans. Here's the problem with that. Faker is not going to speak against the hierarchy ever. Yeah. He's not even that type of person. So you know what that looks like to me, Monty? Someone told Faker, please go and read the following words on camera.
Yes,
and then
of
he's
course.
just done the, because I even made this point that people don't get. It's actually, if you don't care about the truth, which I value highly, it's actually a genius House of Cards PR move. Because what you did is, when you lost a big high profile game where all the attention's on the fact you've lost, you used that as a moment to raise awareness about what you wanted to complain about. And as the greatest player ever, put mad social pressure on Riot. Then when you win another match that brings things up again and you get your next chance, you say, actually, maybe I was a bit out of line on that. I shouldn't really have done that. So you get all the effect of that week of the other shit. You get to walk it back and be back in Riot's good graces and then continue on in the playoffs. Like, if you're T1, not Faker's fucking actual like integrity, you got everything you wanted out of this situation. You actually played everyone like like an actual fiddle. It was a pantomime the whole time. Like, if that's true, I think he was told to say some of that bit. I don't think it was just like a purely earnest apology, you know.
I mean, and here's the thing: they get to have it both ways, right? Because they get the initial, you know, clap back against Riot, which they were looking for, because they're clearly trying to light a fire under Riot's ass about this DDoS issue, which I do think is extremely justified. And, you know, and then you also got to placate the haters who were saying you were making excuses by saying I shouldn't have made excuses. So now you just double PR win.
If you're that T1 fan that was like, oh, Faker, you've let me down. Well, now you know he's back. You're, oh, it's cool. He just had a bad day. The GOAT's back. He never said anything wrong. Even the T1, even the Faker fan gets to feel good out of this.
And, you know, if I had less integrity, I could go on right now onto Twitter and apologize in French to Adam and BDS. And here's the thing, guys. I can actually read French. My French is pretty good. So I can write in French, too. You know, I'm probably the last caster you want to antagonize in this way because I don't have to use Google Translate to know what you're saying to me. And also, I like France and French people generally speaking. So I am part
too far, but you know.
I do. I enjoy being in France. So it's not like I have
time soon, but you know.
I'm just saying,
just stay away from esports. Just stay away from
esports. I'm just saying, French people, you need as many allies as you can get. And I'm actually one of them, weirdly. So maybe I'm not the person to do this too. Because
what I low-key really love is that the groups in LEC that are trying to go ham on me, an Englishman, are French and Spanish. It's like, are you aware of the history? Maybe look up like Henry VIII on. Like, our whole shit is going to war with you, specifically you. So like, I'm ready. The fucking blood memory speaks to me, Monte. It tells me, yes, get the swords, fucking get the shield out, get the horse ready. Let's ride at dawn.
I also look French, guys, if we're being honest.
Okay. Now we're going too far.
And when I'm in France, everyone thinks I'm French. So anyway, let's move on. I think now, before we go into the LCK, because it's going to be another conversation about, you know, the DDoSing and the T1 results and everything like that, because obviously it was another, you know, we actually had very interesting different dramas. We had dramas in every region this week, Thorin, except for LPL. We had...
They just had good games.
LEC drama with me. We had LCS drama with Inspired. Somehow LCS drama happened after LCS was over. Intriguing. And then we had LCK. We had LCK drama with the DDoSing and the T1 press conference. But guys, it's time to talk about our new sponsor for this week. It's one that I've been trying to get for us for a long time, and we finally succeeded, which is Manscaped. God bless. Okay. Manscaped, our new sponsor, with our promo code LFN. If you guys don't know what Manscaped is, they are men's grooming tools for you to use on your balls and also your ear and nose hair, whatever you like. They do a lot of international shipping too, if you are overseas. And this episode has been brought to you by Manscaped. And right now, they are trying to actually raise awareness for testicular cancer, because one man every hour, every day is diagnosed with testicular cancer. In fact, testicular cancer is the most common form of cancer among men aged 15 to 35, with April being National Testicular Cancer Awareness Month. And they are partnering with the Testicular Cancer Society to help spread awareness for men's health and early cancer detection. So you can visit manscaped.com/TCS to learn how to check yourself for early signs of cancer. And as always, you can use promo code LFN for 20% off, plus free shipping at manscaped.com. I actually had a friend who in his early 20s had testicular cancer and found it by checking himself, i.e., test your balls to see if they had lumps. It could save your life, guys. So go do that. And you can also clean yourself up. They have their most famous tool is the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. Works in the shower as well, so you don't have a lot of mess if you are grooming yourself. And it has interchangeable skin-safe blade heads. Also LEDs, so you can see better. And it's waterproof. It also has travel lock, so it doesn't turn on in your luggage and make the security people think it's something else that's vibrating in there.
That's OP, because that's why I was always scared to take like clippers like that, Monty, when I go in the thing, because the nightmare is it turns on, doesn't it? Like, it's so easy to flip that switch.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a good deal. And as part of this, Manscaped is also donating $50,000 to the Testicular Cancer Society, which is great. And you get discounts as well. They have a variety of different things for shaving and grooming in general. Great sponsor. Really excited to have them on board after pursuing them. So in addition to providing the right tools and solutions for comfortable and easy grooming, Manscaped is committed to raising awareness and giving support for fighters, survivors, and families impacted by testicular cancer. This is why they will be donating $50,000 to the Testicular Cancer Society. Help save lives by going over to manscaped.com/TCS and sharing their funny, educational check yourself video. And while you're at it, grab 20% off plus free shipping with the code LFN. So there you guys go. If you guys have been thinking about Manscaped or leveling up your hygiene/grooming game, again, best way to support us is to support our sponsors and keep Manscaped rolling on the show, because we're excited to have them. So thank you very much to Manscaped. And now we can talk about LCK and the Faker interview. So why don't you describe the context of what happened? Because after the drubbing they received from Hanwha Life, there was a press conference. And in this press conference, Faker revealed, I would say not as an excuse from the translations I've read, but more as like just talking about, he was actually, I believe, asked by the reporter.
He was asked it, which is
specific.
Yeah.
Go for it.
What I would say is this: Faker basically was asked about this situation, which people were fully aware of. Obviously, that like there's been DDoS issues. By the way, not just of T1, LCK itself got DDoS. Remember, guys, that was why like some of the matches couldn't continue. So this, and like LOL Park has supposedly been DDoS, etc. So there's obviously a thing going on in Korea. And if people don't know, by the way, one thing in a weird way I actually respect about Korean culture is they do have like a social sense that like this is unacceptable, like something must be done about it, and they will like demand things. I told the story in the past that I had a Korean girlfriend where outside her apartment it was like drilling at like 10:30 at night. She literally like called the fucking like council, and then like they told the people like stop doing that like the next day, and I was like, what? And she was like, well, they cannot do it, it's not allowed. And I was like, yeah, I wouldn't even fucking think to call though, like they would never, they just fobbed me off. So anyway, Faker basically, when he was asked, and crucially that's a distinct point, guys, because a famous thing that Charles Barkley used to say when he was a player, which is he said, you guys as the press will come to me and you'll ask me something like, what do you think about, is this guy better than you? And then when I'm like, nah, he's not better than me, you'll just print it like, that guy ain't better than me, says outspoken Barkley in rant. And it's like, you just asked me that, like you set that up, I didn't choose to talk about it. So basically he was asked, right? And in this moment where I imagine, yes, he felt quite vulnerable, having just been fucking swept by Zika, a guy who isn't even on his level, by the way. When he'd just been swept by him, I imagine in that moment, frustration made him think, you know what, now's actually a moment I'd like to bring the spotlight not on me losing, but to that DDoS thing. But apparently, whatever it was, for 2 weeks, we couldn't properly solo queue. I've pointed out in my other video and on other shows, like, that's almost certainly not, like, technically true. What he means there, because he's not going against the hierarchy, is on his official account, the only one you're allowed to have from TOS, he cannot practice from the T1 facilities. Notice how cleverly this is all phrased. You're actually arguing for what you want the ideal scenario scenario to be. You could obviously go to a friend's and play on his account. You could do a million things but you couldn't solo queue. They didn't say scrim, they said solo queue. So he said he couldn't play solo queue. And obviously, if you don't know Korean players, the things they are legendary for, and the moment you know they're cooked in the West, is when they finish all the scrims, they just solo queue for the rest of the night. It's why in the West, some of them, I've always told this story, when they're the one Korean, it's why you got to have two Koreans, and they look down the line and they see you are already on Discord with your girlfriend or in World of Warcraft 1 second after the scrim block, they just start losing. Like, maybe I won't do my 6 hours solo queue on EU West on NA or whatever, you know. So in this scenario, he just made that obviously a thing, and then it became the big blow up because when Ashley Kang did her tweet, this is where all of us Westerners saw it, she did specifically isolate the part, which had a longer part afterwards, where it was sort of like making out like it was unfair. And the problem with that is this: if you read that headline, this is where if you're Ashley Kang, you've got to be very careful. Part of journalism and being responsible is the reason why you can clickbait when it's real, like it's something that people would want to click. But the reason why you never omit something is because now 90% of people only think what he said in that headline is the reality, which is when he says it's unfair, he means it's unfair he can't solo queue. But the inference is going to be because he just lost, it's unfair he lost to Hanwha Life because he can't solo queue. That is actually, there's a distinction to be made there that's quite key. And so she phrased it that way, we all saw it. And so basically then, there was a week of everyone going at people like us being like, that's a bit, why make an excuse like that? Or why, you know, why not just fucking take the loss like a man? Or why pick this as the moment to do it? Like, by the way, that's why I'm different to Faker. I would have picked the moment when he beat D+ to say that. And you know, we've had all these weeks where we couldn't even solo queue because you've just won. People can't say you've got sour grapes. And so part of the issue here is then you had this whole stupid discussion of like, well, hasn't Faker earned the right to just whine? It's like, that's not how it works. It doesn't go like, how many trophies does he have? Right, listen to him. So
he's got his whining license now.
And then also, the reason I'd say he hasn't is because I actually always thought one of the best things about Faker, even though it's definitely overblown by his fans, is that he can be somewhat stoic in a loss. Like, obviously, he cries on stage, but I mean, he seems like he takes a loss on the chin. I will say, you guys just don't know some of the interviews they do in Korean, and also Faker has a tiny bit of a whiny edge, because every great player does. Every great player thinks the ref doesn't give him the call, and the rules should be slightly changed, and that defensive player is breaking the rules every time. Every fucking great player thinks that because they're so good. Nothing should stop them. So in this scenario, then you've had obviously this raging debate, and then now after beating D+, they've come out and basically put the genie back in the bottle and said, don't need to worry about that anymore. Because as we say, mission accomplished. Faker's already on that tanker. George W. Bush, mission accomplished. Why are all my references from 20 plus years? What? I've got to start. I'm going to get like some new writers in the writing room. I'm still dating at this point in time. These kids weren't even alive when he did that. So I'm saying it like everyone remembers that. I know.
Yeah, just like all of them definitely know how lane swap works because they were watching League of Legends 10 years ago. They were not. And they certainly, even if they were, don't remember the technicalities of it. Or probably, if we're being honest, never knew them in the first place, even if they watched it. But in any case, I think there are some things to clear up about the DDoSing incident, which is, first off, obviously Riot is not going to say where this is coming from. But the inference is that it is coming from the strongest evidence / supposition is that it's coming from an anti-cheat that is used on the Korean and Japanese clients. And the reason why Riot isn't changing this is that if they take it away, the assumption would be the cheats would start on those servers. And because they are planning to implement Vanguard globally, they probably just don't see a need to fix this problem right now just for T1's sake. Even though Genji also, I think, revealed that they had been getting DDoS during this period as well. So it wasn't just T1, even though T1 definitely got the worst of it. So the idea is that if you have somebody's solo queue ID, you can get their IP. And then from that IP address, from the client, you can DDoS them. Now, the reason why I think that this is probably very difficult to escape from is, first off, guys, T1 is owned by SK Telecom, a telecommunications company which provides internet service in Korea. So if you think that this is an easily solved problem, surely their owners, and by the way, you know who their other owner is? Fucking Comcast in America. You think they couldn't get some of the best IT engineers in the world on this problem? Of course they
Of course
can.
they do, Monty. Monty, people think it's not even possible to rent out a PC bang. Remember that thing? I did a little video. That when I said go to a PC bang, they really think I mean Faker on his own, just go around the corner, sit next to like Bill 789 and go, you think, holy shit, are you playing games? Like, they really they think there was no even solution. That's why I actually made that point very clearly, Monty, about the hierarchy and about how in Korea you do things the proper way and you send the information back up the chain. So the way they framed it was perfect, Monty. I couldn't practice from my official Riot account that everyone knows the name of on solo queue from the T1 offices for this match. That is perfectly framed to get what you want, which is I want this issue fixed. I don't want a compromise like go to a PC bang, play on another account, like hide the
Okay.
you don't want any of those things.
Right. And so, but the thing is that if they were to go to a different location and play on their Riot accounts, they think that that IP would be immediately discovered.
Which is why you'd use a fucking Smurf account, but you're not allowed to say they exist. Everyone has to pretend that's not real. The Emperor has no clothes. We all know
right.
that.
So because you have to have a social security account in Korea. But here's the other problem is that Riot, as far as I know, did give them the super accounts, which is what they give to pro players for Worlds, which like slots them into high elo, but not like challenger, like what they would actually be. Right. And the problem with that, guys, is this, is that it is very easy to find players once they start to reach the upper levels of the ladder. And
you can even look at item placement,
exactly,
million angles, how they click.
Summoner placement, where their flashes, their champion pools, item placement. Here's another thing, Thorin, even the time of day in which they're playing, because pro players don't play during certain times of day because they all have scrim blocks against each other. So
essentially, guys, think this through. You're going to love this reference. You do it like how fucking L was trying to catch Yagami Light in Death Note. You observe when he doesn't write the note, and then you have to do the counter. So that's literally all you do when you figure out who they are. Monty knows this because famously when he was going to sign a player called Freeze, people just looked at the solo queue games and he had the fucking active on like a specific slot that almost no one else did. And it's like, Freeze, you gave the whole game away because you didn't fucking put it on slot 3, you daft.
By the way, every professional team has analysts that are combing the ladder for alt accounts because they want to know if their opponents are practicing certain champions in solo queue secretly. And so there's always, all the teams have ways of finding this. So my point is like, you can't play on your main accounts, which are the proper level to get better solo queue games. If you play on your alt account, there's basically a timer because as soon as you get high enough up, you will be discovered who you are. Everybody will know who you are if you actually try. So it's very hard because then the DDoSer will know that, oh, this looks like Gumayushi's account, and they'll just DDoS it. And here's the thing, Thorin, even if it's not Gumayushi, they probably just DDoS it anyway for shits and giggles. Like, what do they have to lose by DDoSing somebody randomly? That person's never going to complain if they're not Gumayushi. So, I imagine that they just couldn't play solo queue as a result because it was either bad practice on new accounts or a waste of time because they would be discovered eventually. And then if they were trying to scrim, they would have to change their IP from when they last used solo queue accounts. That's my supposition about this situation. I think it's very difficult to avoid because of the nature of it. And frankly, the blame should be laid at Riot's feet for having such a severe security vulnerability within their client that you can get somebody's IP somehow.
I was putting this out on Side Select, mate. The maddest thing is, this is Skype all over again. Why is it the fucking app that lets you source the IP? That should be the number one thing you're trying to deny. And by the way, spoiler, yes, as usual, all blame leads to Riot.
And I think the reason why they're able to scrim is because probably what happened was that they played their solo queue accounts, gave up their IP, and then they just got constantly DDoSed. If they scrim only on Tournament Realm, and the actual attacker doesn't have access to the tournament realm, then I don't think their IPs would get leaked.
I don't know what they're playing, etc. So, again, like, who knows?
So if you changed your IP and then did scrims only on tournament realm, then you probably just don't get, because you're not on live. So they can't get your IP, would be my assumption. This is all my assumptions, guys. Maybe somebody who's a network engineer is going to tell me differently, but this is what I have put together. as a
Here's
result
the
of this
conspiracy
incident.
angle. Do you want a fun one? Obviously, this is a joke / a one-man off Broadway across the Atlantic Ocean into Europe play, starring me, a character called Duncan Thorin Shields, but not actually him, because I would never say these things. But the conspiracy angle would be, because T1 is so incredibly amazing, and they dusted off all the LPL teams in the playoffs last time round, China and the LPL could not allow this lineup when it got re-signed to just defeat them again. Like, they don't want BLG taking an ass whooping from them. They don't want top esports getting murked by them in the quarters. So what they did was, they accessed, these things. I don't know if you know that in China, they're called botnets. And basically, you can actually rent them quite cheaply. So they activated the botnet swarm, and then even people with the mighty power of T1 in the T1 tower that goes 700 miles above fucking Seoul, where Faker looks out across the world and says to fucking Carrier, one day, all of this will be yours, my son. In that world, finally, this is the only way that they could stop Faker beating them. Because otherwise, you all know this, guys, probably Faker would have gone undefeated and he'd just be in the finals right now, would he? Unlike that fraud trophy. That fraud.
My tinfoil hat theory is that this is actually related to betting. So, as you're aware, Thorin, T1 odds tend to be ridiculous because the T1 fans all bet on T1. So if you can cripple T1's ability to practice and then bet on your opponents, you get crazy good odds. So it may be some sort of actual gambling scandal that's happening here as well.
Could also be that, yeah. That's another reason why, like, especially some of that shady stuff in that region is so disturbing, because unfortunately it has impacted games without going into a whole thing that will make everyone go apoplectic. And they don't know what that word means, so Chris, I'm all right.
And, the advantage of DDoSing is that Riot doesn't want to acknowledge it publicly. And indeed, they probably told T1 not to talk about this because T1 obviously got fed up with it. But because it will be kept secret, it's not going to affect the line. Right? Because Riot doesn't want to, Streisand affect this and cause more DDoSing or other people to look into it. So it's even more insidious. But, DDoSing is a felony in many countries. And so why would you risk a felony for shits and giggles? Makes you wonder if there's actually some big money behind this somewhere.
By the way, as a random aside, since we've come to this topic, I don't know if you know this, but obviously you were at Flashpoint, so I don't know if you found out at the end. Famously that Nip Anonymous game where they had the packet loss and it was all wrecked. It was never said explicitly publicly, obviously, Monte, and you were in Flashpoint at the time. But like, I actually did an interview recently where they revealed the real reason, and the real reason's hilarious, which is Ninjas in Pajamas, because they're Swedish and played from like an amazing internet backbone type connection in Stockholm. Their natural connection was so powerful, it made the face anti-cheat.
It triggered the DDoS,
and rate limit them. And so the joke is, it was just the internet literally is too good in Sweden. Like, that's such an amazing story, though, isn't it? I know you couldn't say it at the time for obvious reasons, but that is pure banter. I'm going to say that's a fucking amazing story.
It did trigger. It was like the first time ever that Faceit had a fake DDoS be triggered. I think it's unfortunate. I do think it's understandable why T1 is upset. I think we should be upset at Riot, because this is like, what the fuck is this technology in 2024?
If I take them at face value and they didn't scrim enough, that does suck. I want Hanwha Life to be like Katie Rollstress Gate. I want it to be 3-2. You know what I mean? I want it to be a banger. I don't want it to be they just get murked. Like, you want T1 to lose fair and square, even if you don't like them, for fuck's sake.
Yeah. But they did get bopped by Hanwha Life.
Oh, it was hilarious. Yeah. Especially because I did a tweet, mate. It was only something like a few weeks earlier where I just said, like, basically for no second in their careers was Gumayushi ever better than Viper. So that was a fucking banger. That was a little retweet. And that's a retweet right there. We're just going to necro that tweet right back. It's all good.
And
like, Scion, mate, I got extra value out of it.
your Scion passive on your
I thought it was dead.
Your
exactly.
Twitter.
Came back to life and did more damage.
Also, like, for those of you who are looking for solace in the 3-0 defeat of D+, I mean, D+ played very badly, and like, if you watch T1's level of play, I would not be encouraged and think necessarily.
They always were.
I would not think that T1 is going to do better against Hanwha in their next series, because there were certain things that D+ was doing, such as letting Orianna and Ashe through, which were banned every game by Hanwha for obvious reasons, because Ashe is incredibly dangerous as a support AD flex pick in the hands of T1, enables their like hard push bot style. And Orianna has been Faker's best champ, and he's been great on it this split, dominating lane, dominating team fights. So let's get rid of it. But no, Faker just gets it in game number 1. They just get Ashe in game number 3. People will be lolling at the Vayne top and thinking it was good. It didn't do anything in the game, guys. It didn't do anything. It didn't do anything.
Everyone on Twitter, it's so clean. Oh my God. Fucking yeah.
Especially, you should not play Vayne into Veigar, guys. That you know. No. Like, all that mobility that Vayne should have in her ult, like tumbling around and ghosting. Well, you're just in a Veigar cage and he just clicks on you when you appear. So not sure about that one. Just because it works didn't necessarily mean it was good. So yeah, it was
misunderstood concept of the history of League of Legends.
Well, it's like, oh, it won, therefore it's good.
I know.
It's like,
I know.
Okay. Wasn't my favorite. T1 is kind of back to their old tricks, and instead of blinding Aatrox, now we just blind TF every game instead. We try and play Rek'Sai, but Zeus isn't very good at it. Owner gets destroyed by Peanut once again. Peanut and Doran, for whatever reason, just have Zeus and Owner's number in the LCK in domestic competition. Zeka gets Azir back, even though he's not a wonderful Azir player. He's good enough to make it work. Faker's...
You know what the bomber with that is? The bomber is, I really, of all the players in T1, I don't give that much of a fuck about Orna, mate. I've always thought he's whatever. I already thought Keria always was good enough. He could have won the 2022 final, mate. It was the others that let him down. The player I hoped had done the device, where now that you win, you no longer have the downside. It's just upside. I hoped it was this. I hope this was the year where he's just the best, like, fucking player in the world.
Oh, yeah,
why not?
for sure.
Why couldn't it be? He has regressed somewhat, mate. He's just not that same player anymore,
I mean, we'll see how the rest of the playoffs come out, but, like, he was very good for a lot of this split. But
the first 2/3, yeah, sure.
Yeah, I think recently, you're right, it hasn't been as commanding a performance from him. But I really want to give credit to Hanwha, because this team has significantly improved when it comes to team fighting and shot calling. Their team fighting is really good now, guys. It's been super enjoyable to watch them. And I want you guys to pay particular attention to the engage synergy between Doran and Delight, because watching Doran play this Rek'Sai with like flash 4-man knockup on Burrows and like Delight's follow-up engage has been really wonderful to watch. And they played a really competitive series, honestly, against Gen G. And the thing about Gen G is that Gen G came in with a strategy, which was, we are going to take the 5v5s versus you. We are not necessarily going to split push as much. But what we're going to do is we're just going to hard focus Viper, and we're going to keep absolute perfect, notes on his summoner spells. And it's like, if Chovy goes in and burns his sums, well, Canyon's there to follow up as he has no sums and kill him, even if Chovy dies, because there's not anybody else on this Hanwha Life team that's going to carry as hard as Viper. So let's let him have the Zeri, and let's just completely run amok on him, or the Jinx, kind of give him what he wants. But in the end, what we're going to do is we're just going to hard commit into the backline. And a lot of this was really brilliant itemization. Like, think about game 3 of this series. And game 3 is the best game of this series. It's Gen G playing without a tank, except Chovy's playing Grasp Azir, and he's building Liandry's into Armguard, into Zhonya's, into Frozen Heart. And Keen is playing Rumble, but he's building Liandry's Riftmaker, Jackshow's Randuin's, right? And so Chovy and Keen, their solo laners are deceptively tanky. Pays is playing the Zeri, so the hyper carry. But the reason why Chovy's doing this is because he needs to go into the backline and deal with Viper, right? And get his sums out so Canyon on the Jax can potentially kill him. And so he builds in a way that is unorthodox, but is extremely effective. And by the way, this is hands down one of Chovy's best games of all time, which is... for a player like Chovy, really saying something. I mean, this game is a Chovy masterclass. It is amazing to watch. It shows why he won MVP this split. He is incredible. And it's just Gen G as a team is very intelligent in the way that they can adapt their builds and their strategies in game, and the way that they come in with a very prepared game plan. And the game plan is fuck Viper, all caps, and they do it. They execute it, right? And it's not that Viper's playing badly; it's that he only has two sums to use, and there's everybody up on his nuts all the time.
I think you could make a very strong case if you had one of those awards like they have in the NHL, Monte, where it's like sportsmanship award or whatever, you know. Viper should win it because this guy is the most professional League of Legends player in the world because he is an amazing player, but he never does what other ADCs would do, which I can tell you. I've gone through a million VODs with people like fucking Forgiven and the upsets of the world. Ask them, why didn't you just commit on this fight? And they're like, you have to understand, like, I was too worried about this, like, summon a spell or this CC. I couldn't trust that my teammate was going to come in. No, this guy doesn't think any of that. What he does is he plays. It's like he is Lisan Al-Gaib, mate. Like, he just sees the golden path. That's the only way to win a game. And it's why, even though they have to give him the Zeri because of the draft, if he has a Zeri and he gets a couple of kills early, mate, you know there is a chance. No matter what the game is like, there is a sliver of a chance because this guy will always max the fucking output damage. It's insane. He never does the back off. It's crazy. Like, he's willing to commit. And I can tell you as an ADC, the reason that's so insane is sometimes your teammates either don't follow up or they fuck up. They just like, all you need to do, by the way, guys, watch that FPX series where fucking Milky Way goes in all the time on Lee Sin and his team fucks up and doesn't kill the carry and wrecks him. Like, that's the worst feeling in the world where you get bodied like that. Just ask Bowen fucking Carmine Corp. Viper just goes in and just trusts, like, I just have to hope my teammates are good enough because it's the only way to win. I am the win condition.
And he's not being let down either. And I think, like, look at Gen G versus Hanwha Life game 1, for example. You know, Viper doesn't have the gaudiest score line. It's 3-2 and 13. Yep. And really, the story of this game is not Zeka or Viper. It's Doran, Peanut, and Delight doing mega engages with Wukong, Rek'Sai, and Alistair, where they're getting, like, multiple 4-man knockups, like, perfectly chained together. Yes. Zeka has 12 kills, but he was a fucking janitor in this game. I saw people saying online, like, why didn't they play more Akali? It's like, yeah, Zeka just cleaned up those fights. You think Akali was the reason they won this game? Fuck no. It's because Doran, Peanut, and Delight are extremely good at engaging and chaining CC. And, like, it almost didn't matter what Zeka was playing that game. To Zeka's credit, he did do some nice zoning of Chovy out of fights at times. Like, I will say that was good. But I don't think that the Akali pick was, like, what turned this game. I don't think that's true. That's
just the classic narrative pattern people are going for, but you're right, that wasn't the game winner. It's not like he was over because they picked that, is it?
No, it's because, like, Doran knows when to flash in on when he's burrowed on Rek'Sai. Delight knows how to kind of flash WQ or W to a minion and then Q flash into an engagement. And Peanut's there, you know, hitting multiple people with his Wukong ult.
By the way, even though they do get
engage.
this angle that, like, presumably the Lehen swap was for shot calling and because they were giving up Peanut, that does make sense in the same way as Trimby maybe was the right pickup team-wise for Herex over Kaiser. The problem I had with that move, though, is just as a one-to-one move, Delight is better, mate.
Yes.
You saw all last year. You see all now, even in the worst state. The guy is just better. He's a really good player. Like, what a fucking... I mean, it's so weird. He was in the doldrums for a while, and then he's just in a mega team now. It's fucking sick, isn't he? And by the way, on the Viper tip, I really hope this guy at least is going to be, like, maybe MSI Worlds. Like, the reason why is because, like, low-key, body of work, he's on that trajectory to, like, he can be the best ADC of all time, guys. Like,
sure,
he's really fucking
He's already
good.
A world champion, so why not?
Exactly. Yeah. He's already won LPL, already won Worlds. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think Hanwha
already
also
won LCK. He's won Lords. Yeah.
I think
has he won?
He
LCK?
hasn't won LCK.
No,
I don't believe.
No, that's the one he hasn't won. Yeah, he was in the finals.
I think that, you know, Hanwha also, though, in their matches kind of demonstrated why it is they can be very good. You know, they can be more than the sum of their parts, but the problem is still that they don't have the best secondary carry. Zeka,
of course.
You know, yes. Zeka is still champion pool limited, although with MSI coming up, they've released early patch notes, and we don't know how, but they have said they are buffing Akali and Silas for MSI.
Well, Monty, here's the example I'll give you. Anyone who watched dGon Gaming, JDG, last year, and if you didn't, by the way, you're just a fraud. It's like, how did you not watch that team the whole of last year? So anyone who watched that team knows that part of why Ruler, it was hard to know who is actually the best player. Is it Knight or is it Ruler? It's because Ruler basically had team fights that were like the most dream setup ever for an ADC. Because the whole time, Knight on some mega champion like fucking a fucking Syndra or something would be hovering, and they also had to worry about him. And that meant if you were Ruler, you just got so much more space to move.
Well, also, 369's tank play is real good, too.
Well, the point is, everyone was zoning them off. And you had another guy, by the way, where even if they catch you, he might just kill everyone and then wipe the fight. Zeka isn't going to do that. That's not even his game anymore. Thorin is the weak side, really good player, knows what he's doing, play the tank. At this point, it's too much pressure on Viper is my only problem here. Like, when he loses, get ready, because bozos have to be contrarian. When he loses, they'll just go, what happened to the Viper guy? It's like, who has a harder job? Explain this to me, right? Out of all the teams that could go to MSI, guys, who has a harder job as ADC than Viper? Yeah. Nobody. Every other team has another. Like, dude, you might not think fucking Fortic's the shit or whatever, but like Rookie has Fortic. He's a good player.
Rookie's also been very good in LPL playoffs.
Yeah.
He's been very
You
good.
go on any team, you want to go and look like the fucking guy, Jackie Love. Yeah, Jackie Love's a mega stud. Mate, he's got 369 on his team. And he's got Cream, who's no bomb. Like,
Cream's been really good too.
Right now, but every other team has the super rosters. If you're the guys from Hanwha, what's cool is you're a flawed roster, but you're getting the most out of it at the moment. That's the cool angle. It's why really the dunk on T1 won't even just be like that Hanwha beat you. It'll show that T1 was flawed, because there should be a way to beat this team. It should be possible. You can maneuver around some of their flaws if you have, in theory, T1's players.
Yeah, the problem obviously with Hanwha is if they go to MSI, that Peanut plays significantly worse at international tournaments than he does domestically. And he plays weird, and he just ints and dies even more than he does occasionally in the LCK. But, you know, if we get back to Zeka's champion world and he patch Zergs again, I mean, that's a possibility. What's so tantalizing about Zeka is his highs are so high, but he's just a razor cake, guys. And yes, what I don't like about the excuses that fans make about Zeka is that, yeah, his Ahri's super good too. His Talia has been very good in the last third of this season.
Playmaking picks, yeah, that's what he wants.
You know, his Talia's gotten a lot better. But if we look at this guy's Azir, he's literally had years to play Azir right now, and he is nowhere near as transcendent an Azir as many other Azir players. He takes a long time to learn new picks, and his dominant champion pool is kind of low. Like, his Yone's great, his Trist is good, his Ahri's great.
He should always have been in the LPL, mate. Because in the LPL, they wouldn't waste their time just going into the Azir 1 million times and building out a meta comp. Like, in the LPL, you would just play to his strengths, like fucking Leader in LEC, and you'd just play every crazy one of his picks if possible. Right. You'd force it through. In the LCK, they always want you to play the ideal meta, so they're always going to go to that, unfortunately.
Yeah, and he's not an Ahri player, which is a problem.
Oh, of course not.
It is a problem in this meta. But the thing about Zeka is nobody's saying he's bad. Zeka is good. Okay, I want to make that clear. Zeka is good. The problem with Zeka...
I'll take Zeka on fucking FPX any day of the week. Send him over. Send him over. We'll have fun with that.
The problem with Zeka and why people harp on him is because he's not quite good enough to be world class.
He shouldn't even be on this team. Let's be real. You could instantly put a few people on this team. Yeah. Maybe BDD, I'll take him tomorrow. Yeah. By the way, BDD on Azir on this team, mate, they're in the finals. What are we talking about? Like, that's good. That would be a fun fucking team.
So I think that's really the issue with Zeka is he's good, and he has enough of a champion pool to be effective in any meta, I believe. But it's just not quite there enough. And that's why people, Zeka doesn't deserve to be on a bottom roster. He's certainly a top mid laner within LCK. He's certainly a world-class mid laner. But the problem is he's not Chovy and he's not Knight. And you need Chovy and Knight to win a title, I think, at the international level. And people will point to Faker. Faker had a pretty good Worlds last year, right? He had a good Worlds. In fact, he made the hero play, like Faker's clutch factor came back, and he made the hero play on Ruler in that JDG game. So it was very sick. But you also have to remember, Faker lost to Zeka in the World Finals. People say, well, Zeka was the MVP of that Worlds. He was. I agree with that statement. But he hasn't been that good since. And the only reason they won Worlds was because he was that good. So you guys have to pick. Like, if you believe that he's still that good, then why can't Hanwha Life beat Gen G?
Monte,
or
so
you must admit, let me just check that he's not actually that good.
No, let me just check. So T1 fans are saying it's okay to lose at Worlds because the other guy was the MVP of Worlds. I present to you the case that JDG lost to Zeus's team. So it must have been fine. Nobody didn't prove they were shit. They lost to the MVP. What do you want? Case closed, right? Give me a fucking break. I wish people would stop doing that with these switch up their whole reason. Like,
of course.
Also, you know, one thing that's so bizarre, Monty, is I know I've been caught in too much of the quicksand of LEC or LCS watching those games. When I go back and I watch an LPL or an LCK game and they're dancing around the Baron, right? Seeing, will there be a fight? Will fight. And then I realize, wait a minute, holy shit. The team that's not got control of the Baron is waiting out the package. And when it goes off, they attack. And it's like, I feel like fucking Anakin's is it possible to learn this power? Not from an LEC coach. Like, guys, how many years has that existed in the game and people still don't even fucking do it in the West? They just fight when it's on. It's like, oh, hope he doesn't go on our back. Shit, he's on our back line. Oh, God. You can just wait. It's like, nah, you wait for it to fucking run out. What are you doing?
I mean,
it looks so easy when you do it, guys. It looks so easy.
My favorite thing about that BDS G2 series was watching BDS fight Drakes when Adam had TP up and Adam wouldn't TP into the fight. And they also fought the Drake 4v5 for reasons. I don't know. It's like, what are you guys doing?
He was probably typing in team chat, FF, go next.
Well, I just thought it was hilarious because I'm sitting there. I was literally watching these games and I'm like, well, Adam got several plates, but his team died. So surely on this Aatrox with his lead, he's going to carry now, right, guys? He's going to hard carry because he made the decision to get the plates and the gold. Oh, no, he didn't carry. Also, Aatrox was shit into their team composition, and he had no chance to carry, so it was even more pointless because BDS's actual win condition was stacking Drakes, and he just didn't show up. But he got the plate goal.
You have to understand, Adam needs to look like a superstar, and he has to be doing something, doesn't he? More plates, more dates. He's just trying to get his fucking name out there. It wasn't him. He wasn't there. By the way, Monty, are you ready? It's how a noob thinks. How could it be his fault? He wasn't even there. Genius. He can't be more on
Thorin. He told them in comms that he wasn't coming. Why did they fight that Drake?
Also in scrims, G2 didn't even take that fight. Just sit to your
That's a good
joke. It's all good.
Oh, too funny. So yeah, look, I think HLE is a good team. They've actually surprised me. I really enjoy watching Hanwha Life.
Oh, fun now,
right now.
They? Yeah.
I think they're fun as fuck to watch. I think Delight is playing amazingly well. Love watching Viper.
Redemption arc for everyone who isn't Viper is kind of cool, isn't it? Like that. Delight basically just got fired from his job after winning the championship twice. Then you have like fucking the top side. We're told you're washed and you're not good anymore. And then even Zeka, who I'm not even a fan of. Look, even he can have the odd game that's all right. He has the odd game that's all right.
I also just like the memes that are going around about Hanwha because you'll appreciate this. So obviously the Counter-Strike major, people were making jokes about yellow Na'Vi and blue Na'Vi. Blue Na'Vi is Cloud9 because they have some of Navi's former players. Sure. So they were just calling Cloud9 blue Na'Vi. So now they're calling Hanwha Life orange Gen G, which I think is very funny. Okay. So now we just have gold Gen G and orange Gen G.
Could have been something like Gen B. You know, maybe that one. I go with that one if you want.
But, you know, Gen G still owning T1, just in two different forms now.
The joke is now they've got two teams to own them. So now you just deny them the MSI spot too. That's just pure gangster. At that point in time, Arnold's just like, he's like that fucking guy out of like whatever that guy was called in Evangelion. Like,
oh, yes.
That is come to fruition. Like,
his glasses glinting.
Gintaro or whatever the thing's called. Something like that, wasn't it? Am I just making that up?
No. Shinji's dad. I forget.
Yeah, what was he called though? No one knows.
Gendo Ikari, that's right.
There you go. It was the G. There you go. I knew he was a G, just like Arnold's a G. There you go.
So yeah, I do enjoy the orange Gen G memes, and it would be very. I mean, the storylines are great if they make the final too. Obviously, you know, the two, basically all the members of last year's championship roster facing each other now on different teams is pretty sick.
It's the way that's like a sister team thing as well. Like, well, at least the championship goes between two, so we can just play now, guys. Let's just play. No need to leave the scrims to each other. Let's just play the game. See who wins, keep it in house, innit? And also the irony as well that you have a secondary team in case you don't win that you need to take down the other squad, and they're sponsored by a life insurance squad. So it's not thematically perfect. You get a second chance. There you go.
So yeah,
By the way, I'll tell you what, I've got a quick thing to ask you about LEC. There's one thing. Look, they meant it as a joke, but it's been made multiple times now. I'll tell you one thing that's a bit weird to me. In general, you'll notice on LEC, they actually don't try to go too hard on players or make out like teams are shit, right? But because it's the meme, and it's especially on the core stream, the meme, even on the broadcast, they were making that joke. Sjokz made it of like, maybe we should just send only G2 to MSI and not send another team, lol. And I just want to go like, look, I get it. Here's the thing. Here's what's different that people don't get about LEC. When I did events, Monte, I was never working for Valve Software. I've never taken a check or a cent from Valve Software ever in my life. I've never worked for, I was always working for a second, third party operator who, as a result, by the way, wanted to have like their own flair, their own vibe, let you do things you can't do. The idea on the official broadcast of Riot Games in Europe, the joke is like, lol, our whole region is so shit. There's not even a second team even worth sending. It's like, it is funny, but holy fuck, that's like unintentionally. I don't even thought it through. That's unintentionally one of the hardest fucking things ever dropped on LEC. That's crazy. That would be like if LCS said after the finals, guys, congrats to Team Liquid for winning, but maybe we shouldn't even send any teams because we have no chance. All right, Jon, you know what I mean? Like, fuck, you know, they just won, bruh.
Well, you see, Thorin, Sjokz just came back from working the CS Major, a circuit with international tournaments where all of the best teams continuously play against each other. And so her return to LEC and realizing the sheer desperate hopelessness of this situation, because her region's teams are locked in a monkey cage battle, which they can never learn from because they have garbage practice and garbage scrim partners outside of G2, was just so thoroughly depressing to her that she came up with this revelation on air. That's my theory.
Little take on that. I did a tweet, but it was in the replies, so you won't have seen, guys, unless you follow the minutiae. I'm just going to say this because it's always been my position on all my shows going years back. When she started that thing, Sjokz fired, where she roasts someone with savage burns. Do you know my only problem, Monte? It's obvious if you know anything about burns. Nothing ever comes back the other way, mate. And you know why? Because by definition, she is the worst person you could ever flame back. She has all the social media followers. She is beloved. By the way, we naturally have an instinct to protect women. We don't want to see people being harsh to them and rude to them and telling them they're shit or rude or something. But here's the problem, though, is there are people in this world. It's like that thing, you know, some men just want to watch the world burn, Master Wayne. There's some men don't give a fuck. And so there was a time, Monte, where sadly, I almost had my dream. Basically, I was working with Blast again. I was working on Blast Premiere, their new product in early 2020. And they announced to me privately behind the scenes, by the way, we're going to have Sjokz come for a week. And if it works out, who knows? Maybe in the future she comes back and guest hosts here, because obviously she wanted to like pivot in the Counter-Strike a little bit. So what happened was she came for 1 week, but on this week, I was ready. I was waiting for the desk. By the way, I don't ever write lines before, guys. I did one time for that last major. Just got told people I wanted it to be really great. Normally, everything's off the cuff. Everything's off the top of the dome. I was waiting the whole time in my segments, because I was an analyst, if you don't know, guys. I was waiting for a slight roast, and then we were going to have some fun. It never happened. She was incredibly polite. She just stayed totally professional. She kept it just business. We just did the games. Never attempted one burn. And the reason why it's a shame is this, is because I don't do CS events since then, guys. So I've had the chance. In fact, the whole world went online. I didn't even do Blast Premiere after that. So I've always just thought, here's the thing. The hype's brilliant. You're doing a great job with it. But put her on a desk with me, my friend, and we will have some fun. Because I tell you what, I'm your Huckleberry. I'm the one. I'm the one. So you have to understand, anyone, maybe Shaquille O'Neal got it from me. Anyone can get it from me. So, and by the way, I actually wouldn't even go as hard as I would on other people. I'd make it like a funny joke, but then I'd like back out or maybe even let her win at the end. But I'd definitely, there wouldn't just be Sjokz fired and the other person has no weapon. I'd at least be firing the catapult back, you know?
I mean, I think on the Sjokz fired thing too, you could just play bad cop to her good cop and just go even harder in a way too.
Good. True. True. That could work too. It doesn't have to be antagonistic. I'm just saying, though, she does get to roast everyone, and then they never say anything back to her. It's like, I don't know about that. I mean, if you don't know, guys, the reason I've proven my point, I once roasted Law like this on Twitter. She made some sort of a comment where it was sort of like, I can't remember if she was talking about like fucking Fnatic or some like second or third best European team, where she made some sort of a comment that was almost like, hey, they're not even like the top X in Europe. And I was like, well, to be fair, you're not even top 2 in like fucking hosting in Europe or whatever, when she didn't used to host LEC. She's like, that's a pretty good one, because she goes, quick shot and Sjokz were better than I wanted. So I had a roast on that one. You can do it if you actually, because what people don't know is this. It's like that famous meme of like the fat guy and there's Chad, and then the one where it's the fat guy like, hey Susan, how's it going? And she's like, harassment please HR. Like, it's like that. You actually have to have the charisma to pull it off. Like, I would, on Twitter, by the way, that plays way worse. On a desk, you do it in a way that's fun, so that then everyone just gets in on the joke. By the way, like she's doing with Sjokz Fired, it's just I feel like everyone's too nervous in League to say anything back, so they don't have fun. Even the people who would banter like Perks or Yankos, they just go, their brain just goes, delete that joke. Do not say it out loud. Whereas like I would just say it out loud. That's my secret.
It's like what we talked about the quick shot incident too, which is that who knows what gets you fired or doesn't at this point in time. Like Dash got taken out behind the woodshed and shot for no reason. Quick shot had something that was never supposed to be released, and then he got done in. So is it even worth the risk? I mean, and this is what we talked about with when you set these precedents for your talent, they're going to be less entertaining and take fewer risks because they're so concerned. They're primarily concerned about getting hired again. And so you're going to get worse, less interesting content out of them as a result. So I think it's even less likely to happen now than it ever was before, Thorin. I think it's less likely now. But, you know, obviously, if you guys were on a Counter-Strike desk together, it's a very different, that's a very different thing. Yeah. It's a very different thing.
That way.
All right, guys, we have one more sponsor to get to tonight, and then we will talk about the inspired stuff. And it is, of course, our good friends over at Liquid IV. And shout out to Liquid IV, continuing to sponsor us and offer great products. So Summoning, right there. Summoning Insight is proudly supported by Liquid IV. And
my cells are literally supported by what gets into it from that bottle.
That's true.
And I do drink it whenever I work out.
I do as well. And it's summertime coming up soon where you guys might be outside and sweating more. So now is your opportunity to stock up and make sure you're hydrated and refreshed. So, you know, really good time. While it starts to get hot again. I know in Korea it's been very spring-like. The cherry blossoms are all out. It was a very pleasant, like 25 degrees Celsius today here in Korea. Lovely day. Had a nice time outside this afternoon. And, you know, keep up with it. If you get a little bit sweaty or if you're running outside, doing your exercise outside, you just get a single stick of it. It has 3 times the electrolytes of the leading sports drink, plus 8 vitamins and nutrients for everyday wellness. You just shake it up in your water and you're good to go. And they have tons of different flavors depending on your preferences. They also, as we've said, have sugar-free options now. So sugar-free options.
They're delicious too. They're really good.
White peach is very nice. Green grape, very nice. Strawberry lemonade, lemon lime, pear. And if you are working out, maybe you want a little bit of sugar because obviously that feeds into your energy during your workout. Or what I like to do is actually have the caffeinated versions during my workout instead of taking a pre-workout. So they have caffeinated ones as well. I like the yuzu pineapple one, but the lemon ginger one is also very good in the caffeinated variety. But yeah,
of the sugar-free ones, by the way, I actually do think the strawberry lemonade is delicious. The lemon lime one's just a really good like flavor balance,
classic.
And the grape one's mad underrated.
Yep. So we are big fans of this product. We use it all the time. As we said, 1 stick and 16 ounces of water hydrates better than water alone. Turn your ordinary water into extraordinary hydration with Liquid IV. Get 20% off your first order of Liquid IV when you go to liquidiv.com and use the code LFN at checkout. That's 20% off your first order when you shop Better Hydration today using promo code LFN at liquidiv.com. So thank you to Liquid IV. Supporting our sponsors is the best way to support Last Free Nation. And Liquid IV has been a wonderful partner to us. So thank you to them. We love your product. And yeah, It's a good day for sponsorships, Thorin. We've got a new one. We're gonna have new ones coming all the time, guys. I'm very excited about some of the other new ones we have, but also equally grateful to Liquid IV for their commitment to the show.
And anyone out there who supports us by getting a savings and trying these products.
Yeah, it's great.
Right. By the way, you just set up the Inspired thing for a minute. I just really quickly want to do something.
All right. So guys, let's talk about this Inspired interview that happened with dGon. So the storyline here is that immediately after the finals of the LCS, in which FlyQuest lost, Inspired did an interview with Last Free Nation host dGon over on his personal YouTube channel. And Inspired was, I think, very frank about his opinion about how the match went, and was particularly harsh on Jensen for his mid lane performance during the course of this series. And that created a lot of controversy, especially, it seems like, from NA fans. But I think a lot of people, especially Europeans, view this as directness. Papa Smithy later came out with a statement saying that Inspired is a wonderful teammate, and, you know, it was kind of the passion of the moment, more or less. And that, you know, Papa Smithy said Inspired maybe shouldn't have been so harsh, and that a lot of people came out and said, like, this is what European players will do in scrim reviews, you know, being a little bit more blunt. I personally didn't find it super offensive or anything like that, but I think a lot of Americans, I'm very blunt, and I think a lot of Americans struggle with my bluntness. And I think this is, like, it felt like very harsh criticism to a lot of people. And perhaps it wasn't the time or place right after the finals. But I also understand it, because if we're being honest, Jensen had a pretty bad finals performance. And I don't think what Inspired said was wrong. And I think we also have to... And Busio. I mean, they had multiple underperformances. Even Inspired arguably underperformed. You know, Umti had a great finals, and I think he outplayed Inspired in many ways. But I think one of the frustrating parts, and one of the things that fans don't really understand, is that imagine you come into this finals and your strategic coach has just been put on leave, as we discussed last week, and then you come up with this game plan, and the game plan is we're going to play Annie Karma, and these are supposed to be picks that give you insane mid lane prio. Well, as a jungler, you want to rely on the mid lane prio of these picks to plan your own movements and what you can do on the map. So when Jensen is playing Annie and never gets push, because he's not, like, it's not even rocket science, guys. We see the Chinese and Korean mid laners doing this with Annie, which is just like hit 6, drop bear on their head, push up the lane, get prio, chunk out the enemy mid laner. You have control of the map. Now, it must have been, if I'm putting myself in Inspired's shoes, very annoying to come in with a plan with Karma and Annie and not have mid lane prio. That sounds really shitty if I'm thinking about Inspired's position and a jungler's position on this. And it probably was, for Inspired, one of the more frustrating things, because he couldn't play his game. So, yeah. I mean, I don't know. What did you think about the Inspired stuff?
Right, I'll give you the full spectrum take. So first things first, you have to understand Inspired is Polish. Now, the reason why that is relevant is because if you know the greatest teams of all time in Polish Counter-Strike, and then it later turns out even in teams like Roccat when they came into the EU LCS, they are famous for being teams where if you are not Polish yourself, you will think they are raging, but that is their way of, in a very blunt manner, directly addressing a problem, making sure the other person knows it, getting confirmation they know it, and then basically sort of being like, right, we've got it out of our system, fuck you, fuck me, be, now let's just do it right and win the next game, team on 3 sort of a thing, right? People don't get that. You just don't understand Polish stuff. Like, there's a story I have that you'll see soon where basically when Nuke Duck joined that team with Vander and Rocker and Jankos, he's fucking from Norway. He was just looking around like, the fuck's going on here? And they were just like hard flaming each other all the time. He was like, what the fuck is this? And then he just had to learn, oh shit, that's just how they do it. So first of all, already, I made this point to other people as well. You notice there haven't been many really great Polish players that have gone to the LCS. Like, there's Inspired, but Jankos didn't go. You didn't have some of the others go. There's been players in every position that were sick from that region, mate. They've never gone. And I think one of the reasons in general Eastern Europeans don't tend to go, mate, is you tend more to get Scandinavians go, because Scandinavians are quiet and reserved, and that's exactly what fits into the LCS culture. Even if you, by the way, think to yourself, "No, these fucking reviews are shit." As a Swede, you're just going to go, "Oh yeah, okay," and then you're just going to play your game and do what you can, or some Dane, you're just going to go on with it. So one of the issues you have is, this is one of the reasons why I don't think some of those players have gone. It's one of the reasons why, by the way, Perks is from that region of the world. He also got in trouble. They had to literally decide, who do we kick? Sven or Perks? They are fucking talking too much and raging. Well, one of them cost $5 million. I think we'll keep the $5 million one. And therefore, a guy called King just got to play some Jenkins level fraudulent LCS that you never should have been in for. So there's that angle. Then there's a whole thing where I would say a different characterization if this was my side channel, but it's about the way that now society in America can be characterized. It's a type of isation, Monty, but I won't say what. It's a type of isation, which basically means that the number one priority is this, that nobody feels bad. It's not that nobody... it's not that everyone tells the truth, or people try to solve problems, or that we really get to the bottom of things, or that we actually like air our, vent our disputes and our problems and get them off our chest. No. It's just that the number one most important thing is no one must ever feel bad or uncomfortable. Well, it's why in the modern day, I find it so alarming that everyone is actually like bragging and flying the flag of everything they think they have wrong with them in their mind. Because what they're trying to say is, because I have this wrong with me, you can never ever say I did something wrong. It's never my fault. I never did anything wrong.
See, the thing is we have to prioritize mental health, Thorin, and there isn't an acknowledgement that there are different...
It's almost antithesis to competition as well, by the way.
That's what I'm saying. So here's the thing about mental health, guys. You cannot be a sports champion and probably have a good work-life balance. Your mental health is under stress constantly because you have to just outwork people and you have to have an insane competitive drive. But there's also different things. Like, for example, I would imagine that the worst thing possible for a true competitor in terms of their mental health would be losing, right? So I think many of these people who you are trying to defend mental health wise would rather hear the hard truths from their teammates so they don't have to go through losing rather than just be, flamed or hear that they played badly. Because I'd imagine that the thing that will be worse for their mental health is losing again for the same reasons. And also, like, I think Jensen's been around long enough that he can fucking take it. You know what I mean?
Also literally banned for being incredibly toxic forever.
It's true.
Forever. Not even a year, forever. It was indefinite.
Yeah. He was put in riot jail, the naughty riot timeout corner for a while.
Let's just say this, Monty. Maybe that's even why Cloud9 moved on from him when he was one of the best players in the whole fucking league. They didn't do it because he was like bad. It's like fucking Antonio Brown. He's cracked out, mate. He can still be really good, but you don't want him on your team. Maybe he has certain elements that you didn't vibe with anymore, or the upside didn't seem like it was worth the downside. Then you got this whole thing where there's two other points to make here. It goes like this. One, it's not like this has never existed. What do you think the 17-page fucking Dunzo manifesto was about? I've always said that fucking document presented the 4 members of CLG as fleeing Japanese people and got double lift as Godzilla walking into their town. That's how it was presented. Like, cause he was like saying, "Hey, what the fuck you do? Hey, don't play that way." They were, "Oh, what can I do? I can't possibly say anything, but this is toxic. They were, "Get away, please, man." And unfortunately, there was no Mothra.
There was no fighting. You just had to run.
Exactly. Yeah. So first of all, this already existed. It's just that Doublelift in general was smart enough not to leak it onto the camera. Now, by the way, he did that because he was disingenuous. He would just lie and go, "No, my teammates are all great, and yeah, like Seraph was trying his best, and I guess we did a good job. We just lost fair and square." So you can do that, but this is what brings up the next point. Doesn't everyone cry out for transparency? Please make everything transparent. Tell us the salaries and show us behind the scenes footage. And I want to see breaking point from all the other teams. And I want to know what's going on. And I want to see what are the comms? Who made that call? Whose fault was it? Ooh, how did the coach help them? This is like Drive to Survive. This is so cool, man. But I tell you what, you only want that right up until your feelings get hurt and the player you like's feelings get hurt. The second that happens, whoa. What are we doing here? Get rid of all that shit. Bring in the fucking censors. Bring in fucking Minority Report. Mind wipe them all. Make them all say, no, he is a good player and I win as a team and I lost as a team. Like, do you want that or not? And then here's why it's so stupid that you're trying to pretend that Inspired's the most toxic piece of shit ever. Is one, he's very aware he failed in that final. Did you? No, y'all don't listen to the interviews. You read the Reddit thread headline, didn't you? You read the Reddit thread headline and some tweets, and you think you know what he said. So you never went to listen to what he said. If you're implying that he was like, I am God, and everyone else was shit, you literally didn't bother listening. And then the last thing to say is this. I thought a very telling aspect, I think it was Peter Dunn who told me this in my interview with him, was he said, I think it was him who said that one of the things that surprised him was that even though Inspired is quite a blunt guy and has a very strong idea how he wants to play, he would then himself go out of his way to do stuff like take Jojo Pion to one side and sort of help him with stuff like, oh, you maybe work on like this, and you could do it a little bit differently. Well, here's the thing, Monty. One, that actually shows he has a good heart. That shows he's actually a winner. He wants to improve. But here's the other thing that immediately made me think of in this scenario. That ain't Jensen, bruh. Jensen's the guy where like the game ends, he might just be like, right, peace. Fuck me. Yeah, well, fuck you too. I'll see you in the next scrim. Bye. And then he's logged off and he's in World of Warcraft or whatever he plays at that point in time, or whatever it is he's doing. That means he has to stay in America with all that money. You know, I mean, he reminds me of that fucking thing when Charles Barkley went on a show with Michael Jordan, Oprah Winfrey show. And then Oprah Winfrey goes like, he's so good looking though, isn't he, to Michael Jordan? And then Charles Barkley goes, nah, when you get a few billion, you become good looking. You become handsome. It's like, listen, mate, if you've made like fucking $2 million, you're in LA, you're just a young guy. It's a nice world. So my point is, I don't see him going with Inspired Jojo Pionesque, like, teach me the ways. Like, they're guys where actually, in a way, this is some Shaq Kobe shit, mate. What they're actually trying to do, low key to each other, Monty, Whippo, Inspired, and Jensen, is this. We're all top players. We've all either won championships or been to the very top. We've all been like, talents at our position. How we're going to keep ourselves up? Maybe we'll even use the press. We'll needle each other in the press. Like, maybe I needle him, and here's what we'll never get to see, sadly, because no more playoff games. If this had been like an upper bracket game, Monty, and they dropped to the lower bracket, here's where it would have become amazing. What if after the next series they win, but Jensen carries, and then he goes, well, we carried, but it could have been 3-0 if Inspired hadn't have entered that game on, insert Jarvan or something. That would be fire. Wouldn't you fucking love that if they had like a little push-pull dynamic? Because one thing I'm sick of, I told you, with that Team Liquid thing, is like, aside from APA, and by the way, the idea you can be on APA's team and complain about shit talking, it's like, I'm so sick of people who are morons. But the idea that like everyone complained about FlyQuest trash talk. FlyQuest trash talk was better than the LCS. It had a better effect on the LCS. It made the LCS WWE. And I've always told you since day one, that is the only media narrative that works in LCS. It has to be WWE. It can't be based on the gameplay, guys. Like, we're too far behind. So let's make it storylines. Let's make it beats. By the way, isn't this an amazing one? Are you all waiting for next split to see now how Jensen and Inspired are going to play together? I fucking can't wait. It's like, that'd be my number one storyline. That's going to be awesome. So I thought this was all a mountain out of a molehill. You know what I mean? Like, look, I would agree. I would tell them, here's the one thing I'll say finally. The one area I would reproach Inspired, he's not a friend of mine, so I'm not going to reach out or anything. I would just reproach him in this sense, mate. I personally have a rule, which is on questions like that, you say no comment, it stays in the locker room. That's what I would say. So, but that's just me. I'm old school. Inspired is very much new school.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think Papa Smithy had a good statement about this, like, in terms of defending the player and showing that Org at his back and everything like that, diffusing some of the...
He comes from Australia. The idea he can't handle banter. It's like, have you ever been in a pub there? For fuck's sake. Like, that wasn't just a movie like that. Ain't a knife. This is a knife. Like, they're fucking nuts over there. Like,
they're
hard
hardcore,
as fuck. Man. They go hard, mate. Yeah, they go hard.
Don't fuck with the Australians. But anyway, this is whatever. It is whatever. I do think that the heat of the moment caught up with Inspired, and this probably shouldn't have been in an interview. But it is rather, as far as like crossing the line in an interview, this is like one toe across the line. It really is incredibly mild, in my opinion. And also, not sure that people are like, well, Inspired, you played bad too. So what are you talking about? It's like, these things are mutually exclusive. He can play bad and acknowledge that he played not up to his strength. And I think...
here's the title. Did you hear the title? The title of the thread was Inspired Really Dislikes Jensen. By the way, those Reddit mods are a fucking joke. The amount of times they've taken down titles where they said something like speculation, this cannot be proof. Tell me then, sir, where the proof is that Jensen really dislikes. That's fucking mental as a title. Like, the title itself is absurd. The framing of the title alone means the person who never clicks the video will always think this is what happened, that he just shit all over everyone and took no accountability. Like, it was insane, mate. It was fucking insane. And then people had the audacity. Did you see this, Monty? Because you love the league community, mate. Every time they go, you're toxic, you know what comes 5 seconds after that? They then think, now I have the excuse to be incredibly toxic back. So top comment is just remembering a playoff game that EG lost because Inspired smited the Scottle. So what they're doing is, hey, you're being toxic. Let's all be toxic as fuck to him. Haha, you're shit because one time you lost a game. And then they're going, but this behavior is unacceptable. I love it. I fucking love the League of Legends community. It's mental. It's like the ones in Brazilian Counter-Strike you used to tell me, Monty. They'd go, oh, yeah? So you just make up lies that we're violent and that we're aggressive and that we would just attack someone for no reason. Well, then why don't you come in our country and see what happens? They'd be like, holy shit. Bro, 5 seconds ago, what happened? What did he say? You just made my point for me. So just love it. As usual, everyone's toxic except them. That's Reddit. That's the mantra. The narcissist prayer. Everyone's toxic except me. It's always justified when I do it.
It's also, why are people like loving APA shit talking everybody, which by the way has been very entertaining, but it's like Inspired has a passionate interview where he maybe crosses a line just a teeny tiny little bit, and then all of a sudden everybody's losing their goddamn minds. It's like,
Monty, they would rather literally be told. They would literally rather be told by Core JJ that Yon could actually compete internationally than be told by Inspired that Jensen didn't play up to what he expects.
Just whisper me those sweet lies into my ears.
It's wild, isn't it? It's wild, isn't it? At least because, look, obviously I am biased because my entire career is an approach of radical honesty. And like a lot of radicals have been marginalized and targeted. And some would say, whatever. Made out to be a bad guy. That's the maddest thing of all time, Monty. You know, I've never committed a crime in my entire life. Never done anything wrong. Never lied. I'm the baddest guy of all time. Give me a break. Meanwhile, you know what? I'm going to do a video on this soon. I've realized a video that should have been made years ago that I never made. The video goes like this. Riot never made up for what they did. That's the title of the video. So what I'm going to explain, I'm sick of seeing it. It's that, hey, they make it sound like Riot went to prison and served their time. Hey, they paid the money. They're not a choice. Yeah. And that also wasn't like, and also that wasn't
was a court mandated sense.
Yeah, everything about that was fucking fugazi. And at the end, they fired nobody. And like, hey, Thorin, you can't bring that up again. It's mental, isn't it? What a world. What a world we live in.
And we've been
fodder for this show.
We've been over this before, but if, you know, with the antagonism and hatred that certain people hold towards yourself, Richard, and me in the scene, if we had ever done anything, wouldn't that have come out by now? Like, where is that evidence that we have been negative actors in this space? It's like, you don't like our tweets, and therefore we're the worst shit ever. Even while
I would say it's Jacob Wolf writing it, but he's sort of known to sit on some of those types of stories I've heard. So, who knows? We're not going to come out with it. Just hint at them. Keep hinting, cunt. Keep hinting.
Yeah. Too funny. Like, you know, surely somebody would have dug up some stuff on us to take us down.
My favorite one is we're simultaneously irrelevant old and we're not needed and nobody likes or wants to hire us. But also we are the godfather. And if anyone speaks against us in the industry, their job's done. Thanos out of existence instantly. You know that's not true, Monty, because people don't know. You know, I'm like friends with some of the owners of certain big orgs in LCS. Even though I'm friends with their owners, there are so many mega woke employees at the bottom level of these companies that constantly talk shit on me. If I could Thanos people's jobs away, why wouldn't I have taken your job away yet? By the way, I'm not the person who does that anyway. And then secondly, here's the most insane angle of it all. A load of them, Monty, I don't care about this. It doesn't affect me. I was never going to get tweeted by the account anyway. But same as EG's account did to LS, probably the stupidest thing those low-level employees have done is do stuff, Monty, like log into the Twitter account and unfollow me in LS. Like, child, grow up. With the like actual team accounts. Like, just grow the fuck. Again, I'm not DMing them, you daft cunt. Just grow up. Just grow the fuck
Yeah, it's
up.
not like you're DMing the official account.
They think that's like, I'm part of the resistance. It's like, you're doing nothing, you fucking moron. That's nothing. That is actually nothing. And your owner still follows me, so get wrecked on, dickhead. Get wrecked.
So anyway, whatever. I mean, I think we can all say that every member of FlyQuest underperformed to a certain degree in the finals. I don't think
I'll give
that...
a break to Maso. He's pretty good.
Yeah, Masu did fine for what we expected of him. I think, Busio was the worst performer on that team, so I don't even think it's Jensen, but I think that Inspired wasn't going to flame Busio because...
Just upgrade that spot already. If you upgrade that spot, this team will get really interesting. Really interesting.
Yeah, I think Masu had the most stable performance out of all their players. Like Bwipo underperformed, Inspired underperformed a little bit, Jensen underperformed a little bit, Busio massively underperformed.
I'll tell you a move. Here's one for you, Monte. He's wasted his time in Europe. Send Ignar and put him in Busio's spot. Now we're cooking.
It's actually
Bring him
not
over.
an idea.
Listen, that'd be a nice teammate. I'd fucking watch that. I'd watch that cook.
Yeah, that's not a bad plan. So yeah, whatever. And also, I think people are hilarious about.
As fucking Rioma practicing support champions as we speak, ready to come in. Oh my God, support TF! What's he doing? Oh shit! Amazing.
Rioma's Ori's back in the bot lane. So we'll see. We'll see. I think it was Busio nerves in his first final.
Yeah, fair enough. He's still young.
Yeah. So
inexperienced, all that jazz.
And besides, it's not even like FlyQuest was the greatest underperformers in LCS because all of Cloud9 exists. Oh, which we should probably talk about, actually. I forgot about that until right now.
Did you see that video, by the way, where like Berserker was mega frustrated in Cloud9? That was interesting. That behind the scenes one. Dude, I love that. Very rare Koreans have the balls to sort of go off like that. Like, that was cool. That also told me he's a winner, even though he had a shit split. Yeah.
Well, I mean, he might have just been demotivated because his teammates were not up to his standards in terms of practice. Do you want to tell people what happened in case they missed it?
You mean when there was like a clip in the behind the scenes? Yeah. Essentially, it was almost like a candid conversation, and he was basically just mega frustrated. Like he all sort of understood they were in and fucking up. So yeah, I thought it was very, and obviously quite telling because now Mithy's fired, isn't he? And then Reaper comes. By the way, Jack, bro, what is it with you? You let the talents go. You let an Impact go. You let a Jensen go. Not the one who supports me on Patreon. Shout out him. You let fucking what's his name? Sven. You let all these people go, but then Reapered, and then later, years later, other people use them and show they're really good and go, hey, I should get one of those. You had him. You had him already. Why? Listen, if Mithy only winning 3 titles isn't enough, why is Reapered winning 1? Fucking sick, you know what I mean? And then 1 with 100 Thieves. Like, so by the way, Mithy's also out and then Reapered's in. So there's quite a lot we could talk about with Cloud9. They're obviously trying to change things, not changing the players, I notice. Although, and they've got Thanatos for top lane. Actually, this is interesting. They are trying to retool, I guess. Okay, that's big.
Yeah, I haven't seen a lot. Moved on. I haven't seen a lot of Thanatos guys because I just don't watch tier 2. So all I really have to go off of is like, what I hear from Chronicler or Wolf about, and Chronicler's obviously was very excited about Thanatos and has been sad about him leaving on social media, leaving Korea. He hasn't been playing, guys, actively because the theory was he was kind of in contract hell with D plus Kia. He is a very exciting prospect, but you remember that tweet I made way back in the day, which like, I don't think this Dignitas roster swap solves any of their problems. I'm not sure this really solves any of their problems, Thorin, because their problems are...
It doesn't give them shot calling, does it?
They don't have shot calling. And
they remove some in theory.
We're going to take a Korean-speaking... I don't know how good Thanatos' English is, but odds are it's not good. And sure, Berserker will be in the game and Reaper will be his coach. But are we really thinking that Thanatos is going to provide the necessary shot calling to this roster? I mean, what needs to happen is Blabber or Vulcan need to wake up out of their stupor and figure out how to control their team in team fights. I mean, this team was just abysmally bad. Does it affect, like, potentially not losing top lane, which makes shot calling easier? Sure. That definitely could be a big effect right there. I don't think Fudge finds a place in the LCS. I think Fudge is basically just back to So Australia
By
at
the
this
way,
point forever.
it's always a terrible sign. If you're a competitive team at the top and you release a guy and he doesn't even go to another team,
Armut.
it's a fucking terrible sign. It's a terrible sign.
It's the Armut. It's the Armut problem. Literal LEC champion Armut. You know, Fudge has performed. He's placed very well in the splits that he's played. But with the reduction in the number of teams and the fact that I think most teams would rather have Licorice, so unless Fudge is willing to go for less salary than Licorice, and frankly, a lot of these other teams may not need replacement top laners. I mean, he's probably better than Fake God, right? But will they actually make roster changes because Fake God's probably on league minimum salary, and is Fudge going to accept that? And does he want to be on that roster? And where's Licorice going to end up? Like, in many ways, Fudge is fortunate that Revenge retired, because even Revenge, but you also have import options for a lot of teams for top lane. And C9 is exercising that option, it would appear, on Thanatos right now. And they're bringing Reaper back. And Reaper obviously thinks he can fix this team. The thing about Reaper's mentality, guys, is Reaper, he is a vulture in the best possible way. And what I mean is that he sits there circling, waiting for the most succulent body to hit the floor, and then he's all over it, right? And Reaper, I think, has been in the finals like every single split he's ever coached or something like that. It's something outrageous. Yeah. He has like an outrageously good track record. But he refuses to coach bad teams. So he must believe that he can get this roster into competitive shape to at least have a shot at winning a title, which is not, it's not unreasonable. Yeah, it's definitely not unreasonable. He knows Jack obviously very well from his years coaching Cloud9. And to Jack's credit, Jack empowered Reaper probably more than any other owner ever did, because he allowed him to bench the entire team and then make a world semifinal, you know, as a result of the team improving because of the benching. So, you know, this Cloud9 roster should be good. I'm excited to see what Reaper does with it. I'm just not convinced that the core issues of the team are going to be solved. JoJo's been great in lane. JoJo's a very good player. It's that Cloud9 literally can't engage and can't front-to-back team fight. And Vulcan or Blabber need to take leadership steps forward. And maybe Reaper thinks he can do that. But it's not, you know, for those of you looking for a savior out there, it ain't going to be a Korean rookie top laner. Like, that's not what's going to change this team, fundamentally. So, yeah. I mean, I'd be surprised if Fudge makes it back to the LCS. Unless the LCS combines with CBLOL.
All I'll say is, do this fun exercise if you're a fan. You pick the LCS team you'd sign him for. By the way, I wouldn't even put him on 100 Thieves. The sniper guy looks like a real prospect. Like,
oh yeah, you definitely don't replace sniper.
Where does he go? Remember, even some of the bottom teams are actually, top lane's actually not in a bad position in LCS. It's one of the better ones, actually, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And like I said, the problem is that there are people waiting who are North American residents like Licorice that are probably better than Fudge right now.
Yeah, it's also implied, by the way, that Licorice is doing a Reaper and he's also waiting for like a good offer so he can come back and because why your stock was at the highest when he left pretty much. Yeah, why not come back at that point? Why you don't have to join a bad team and grind up again. You already did it.
Yep. So, yeah, I mean, I think Fudge came out very strong in his debut, but Fudge has had every opportunity because Jack loves Fudge for whatever reason. I mean, Fudge had the opportunity to lane swap into the mid lane. That was okay, but it didn't go amazingly. Then he goes back into the top lane, and he just has basically never looked as good as he did in his first year, where he legitimately had some good international performances. Like, I don't want to take away Fudge's rookie year from him, because that's where it showed all the promise, but it's just been very stagnant from that point forward, and like actively bad at international events at times too.
And he also coasted for a number of years because he had a lot of goodwill from fans. They liked his personality. They liked him on Ellis's stream. They liked that he came in as an Aussie and could compete, just like FPI. Like I think he got many, many more splits than another player who played the same with the nameplates off gets, Monte. Like, I think he had more than his fair chance in Cloud9. Like, this was not actually one of the harsh cuts they sometimes make. Like, put it this way, like fucking Summit was cut and he was better than Fudge. Like, this guy
was a literal MVP of the league. Now, Summit obviously had an extremely bad attitude and like ended playoffs, but he also dominated really hard in the regular season, and he deserved that MVP award. He did. But yeah, I mean, I think it's hard when you're literally a mid laner on that team and the guy who replaced you gets MVP. It's not a great look.
And I'll just say this, even though he came off a lot better because he didn't come off European, actually one thing I'll give credit to Fudge is, even though actually Aussies can be a bit raw, he's very, very good on camera. He actually, he projects him excellent. I imagine that, by the way, I'd imagine that probably is who he is. I don't think he's like some fucking method actor or whatever. But that's the one angle that I actually did find kind of whack as well, is when he was on the top, Monte, and they were winning the LCS and in every LCS final, he did also used to on that LS stream talk like he was Bwipo and he was the king and everyone else wasn't that good and they were all silly and didn't understand how to build items. And then I would watch him go into LCS games and then have seasons and splits where it's like, mate, you're like the worst part of this team. Like, even if they win the LCS, it ain't you. You didn't win the fucking game. So I always thought that's the part of his persona that didn't quite work, is when he like crossed the boundary into being a bit arrogant. Like, I love arrogance if you back it up. If you don't, it's obnoxious, isn't it? Kind of like me.
So, look, it's a good development. I'm like nominally excited, I guess. It's fine. But I think a lot of other people,
even if you can't get some amazing shot calling. Look, if I trust anyone to build a system, it is Reapered. And then also, if the Thanatos guy really pops off, the firepower is going to be crazy on this team. It's going to be fucking bonkers.
Yeah. It's still exciting for the same reasons Cloud9 was before. And I do think Mithy was done a little bit wrong, because I don't think Mithy is a bad coach. I think he's not a good coach for this group of players. You know, he tends to be a little bit more reserved, which is surprising considering his personality was so aggressive when he was a player. But you know, I think this group needs very strong emotional leadership. And I know Reapered is going to bring, you know, he's going to bring the hammer down when necessary. And he does it with confidence. And he does have an iron grip on his teams. And I don't think Mithy had that. And I think this team needs it. And Mithy may have been a little bit too wishy-washy with the team instead of setting up very strict protocols that they must follow. So I think Reapered will do well with this roster. I hope so, because
also,
the great tragedy of Cloud9 is that they're not living up to their potential. Like, if we are being directly honest, guys, Cloud9 on paper, if we take each of these players at their peak, should be a top 8 team in the world. And I'm not joking. That's it.
And as an org, they haven't lived up to it. Like, I made this point, right? If you think about this, if I frame it one way, like, it goes like this. Remember, if you're a coach on Cloud9, you very rarely win championships unless you're Mithy. Mithy won 3 championships, Monte. That makes it sound like he's the best coach ever for them, right? The problem is, he absolutely could have won every championship or every split he played there. Like, they could have had something like 8 championships and they won 3. And some of them then, on this case, now they haven't even made the finals. Like, that's where it looks bad. It's why people will never understand how I can critique Riot Games, even though their game became the biggest in the world. And I've always given this analogy. They were in a fucking Lamborghini and they're barely beating a fucking mini Metro. You might be like, but they're beating them. It shouldn't even be a race. Like, people at Counter-Strike shouldn't even be able to get close to you. You should just destroy them. But the problem is, if that's the underperformance. Like, because the other reason why, if you Jack is, mate, this was actually my chance to smash in terms of titles. Obviously, like, he's only just climbed up to where the TSMs of the world are. He could have put TSM in the dirt if he won more. If they had 5, 6, they'd be the greatest org. They already are, by the way, but they'd be the greatest org ever in North American history to be gay. And meanwhile, Reggie isn't even in the fucking league. That's how you win. That's how you fucking win, mate.
Yeah.
But I also think as well, the contrast between the two people as coaches is more key, which is, as coach, Reapered is someone who can be an authoritarian and will keep a level of distance. I got the vibe, because he was a great captain, Mithy tried to be a captain coach. And you know this, when players rave in your first season, like, the players coach, bro, those are never the ones that fucking last, because players have bad ideas, have silly thoughts about things, have to be disciplined sometimes infight, etc. You need, if you're in amongst them, you're just going to be part of the politics. You need to be the guy who comes in and goes, enough of that. It's over. We're not doing it that way. Shut up. And I never got the vibe he was that guy, put it out there. But again, what would I know? I only know him, can message him. He has an idea on my channel, done interviews with him. But again, I probably know nothing because people haven't seen evidence of that.
I hope somebody else picks him up, though, because I don't think he is bad at his job.
I mean,
I
look,
just think,
surely he could have a job tomorrow at LEC. Like, I'll give you an
Oh,
example. Like, isn't he? Look, I wouldn't give him the Carmine Corp on. He doesn't deserve that. But like, why can't he just go to a good fucking LEC team and get busy?
Yeah.
Why can't he be like SK Gaming's coach or something like that?
Smart guy. Yeah, very smart about the game. And, you know, here's the other thing. Maybe head coach is not the position for Mithy. Maybe a strategic coaching role is better, where he's not kind of in charge of the vibe of the team or running player interactions. It's possible. You know, not, but it's so true. I mean, you guys see this in traditional sports as well. Not every coach gels with the personalities of players they have. Sometimes very good coaches don't mesh with the stars on a given roster and have to be moved or let go, and they see success in other places. So I think a lot of the criticism I saw of Mithy was too harsh, and I think this was mostly just a coaching style / personality issue more than it was a reflection on Mithy's game abilities. So I don't know. We'll see. But the Cloud9 stuff, many people are interested in it. I guess I just kind of shrug my shoulders because I don't know enough about Thanatos, and like I'm not entirely convinced that this was like changing coaches is going to be the in-game fix with a new top laner that probably has limited English ability and no professional shot calling experience. So whatever. Hopefully they're good enough. I mean, it's a tragedy that this Cloud9 team underperformed and we don't see them at MSI, because they should be the team that could actually maybe do some damage internationally, because we just know that it's not going to be probably Team Liquid or FlyQuest, not with the current state of their rosters.
I also just love, I won't say who, but there's a person vaguely on the fringes of our circle who's like the biggest Team Liquid fan of all time. And they always stress this narrative. You might have seen it, Monte. I know you have. They always stress this narrative every time something good happens to a Western team like NRG or Team Liquid. They're always like, see, stop importing. Importing doesn't work. It's like, bruh, first of all, they fucking imported Yon and Harry to this team. So what are you talking about? And then secondly, Core JJ is the only reason any of that's possible. Like, what are you talking about, you imbecile? Which you want Vulcan instead of Core JJ, and then we'll put, instead of, listen, you can have all the best players, we'll put like other people instead of Impact. Like, without importing, Team Liquid would be nothing. What are you talking about? What are you talking about, bro?
You guys weren't complaining. You Team Liquid fans weren't complaining when they made the super team with Bjergsen, who was an import player, and it was just like green card central on this roster. And you know,
they just did once it failed. Then everyone suddenly knew and was a genius. You know,
Core has been a North American fixture for years at this point, but he didn't start his career in North America. He didn't experience his career peak in North America. And he spent years away from North America. He spent years on Samsung in between his time on Dignitas, and then he was on Gen G, and then he came to Team Liquid in 2018. He literally spent 3-4 years back in Korea. You know, sure, he's become the poster child since then.
There's a weird thing, Monty, where people remember that Liquid won 4 splits in a row, and they just think Core was only on the last 2. The first ones was that fucking, I can't remember his name because I'm tired. The fucking guy, Ole, there you go. He won the first 2 championships. Core JJ only won he just won his 3rd now. If people don't know, he was also in a billion finals, could have had more rings. He only just got his 3rd now, believe it or not.
I love Ole. Ole is one of I think, the most underrated players in NA history. He's actually very good.
I mean, his problem is, like a lot of people, I'm going to do a video on this one day. Have you noticed that one of the most cursed poison chalices ever is play with Doublelift? And here's why. Because if you play with Doublelift, he is going to say some fucked up story about you later that will ruin your rep forever. So he did it to Yellowstar. He did it to fucking, who was the other one he had? I don't fucking know. Who's the other support player that he had that he trash talked? Someone must know.
I mean, he's had so much.
Who gives a shit? You know, obviously now with Ole, you'll never live down that benching yourself story. You'll never live it down. Everyone will just remember that and think you're a bomb forever. There was a 3rd person, but I can't really give it. I don't give a shit anymore. It's
Biofrost?
No.
I don't know who else he talked about.
I'd have to look up.
Yeah, I don't know who else.
Everyone. He talked about
everyone. Well, anyway, yeah, Ole. Love him. Glad he's out of the military. Glad he's back in NA. Hopefully, you know, he continues to be here, because I think he's a delightful presence in the LCS. Yeah, we're moving on. By the way, guys,
He didn't play with it. It was Smoothie, I meant. He also trashed Smoothie too.
All
By the
right,
way, another mega smart player, shot caller. But again, thanks to Doublelift, he's a fucking bum as usual. Yeah, brilliant. By the way, I love the way Doublelift will tell a story like, and can you believe it? Like in an actual scrim, he just like fucking flashed the ash arrow. Bro, you did stuff like that in Worlds games with the #1 seed from your country. Are you American? Do you represent America? Like, you let your country down and you're not a patriot, mate. What are you doing? What is this shit? So all I'm going to say is, everyone two can play that game, mate. I'll do a video if you want where I'll point out all the stupid things you did. At that point in time, you won't feel so smart, will you? But no one ever does that because we actually pull for you. That's why Doublelift's whole career is that fucking Tyra Banks gift. Like, we were fucking pulling for you. Exactly. Also a fucking 25-year-old reference. Look it up. Look it up, kids.
I also am going to have a video coming out probably by the time that you guys see this. If you're watching the podcast version, the recorded version of this show, that is going to be about the LCS viewership for this last split and how it compares historically, and how I think. I mean, basically, Riot's going to come out with some nonsense statement about the viewership and like the average concurrent viewers increasing, even though that was a result of them literally getting Brazilians to watch the league and Europeans from Casual stream, and pretend that this is a big win, even though the viewership has like halved, since 2016, if you go back in time. So if you want to deep dive into kind of the last few years of LCS viewership in an honest way, you guys can check out the video on my channel as well, because now we have like the full split completed. Spoiler, guys, CBLOL isn't even done yet, and it has more viewership, average concurrent viewers, peak concurrent viewers, and hours viewed than LCS. So I think, a CBLOL LCS League of Legends Americas merger is inevitable at this point in time, because that's really, I think, one of the only things you can do to kind of bring the juice back to the league, which would be fun.
Say what you like about Brazilians. They're not apathetic, unlike LCS fans. They actually care at all times.
At caring. Let's put it that way. Care too much at certain times, one would say. But yeah, I think that would be the shot in the arm that it needs. And people will say like, oh, but why would the Brazilians want this? Like, come on, everybody's going to love this. Like first off, I think it'll make the Brazilian teams better, because they'll get consistent practice against better opposition. And it'd be interesting if a team like rose to the occasion and won the new combined LCS from Brazil. That'd be really fun. Be fun to have mixed rosters. It would frankly just be fun to have the rivalries on social media with the Brazilian fans. If LLAs rolled into this as well, it would be fun. It'd be fun. So
Brazil Argentina obviously is a banger too. Think about that historically.
Sure. So yeah, there are a lot of aspects of this that would be fascinating, I think, and I believe you see Riot continuing to promote Brazilian people into like lead positions for like League of Legends in America, and I think that is a sign of things to come. And also like it would be funny, I think, to run the entire league out of Brazil, because then even the allure of Los Angeles is gone for the LCS teams, and you would actually have to be very serious about wanting to play League of Legends to be an LCS, and it would save a lot of money. I'm sure the teams would love it. The NA teams would fucking love this, by the way.
And also, if you really want to get rid of all that criticism publicly, put a Brazilian player on every team. There'll never be any flame whatsoever from American players. Promise you that right now. Promise you.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens, but I don't know. I think it might happen next year. I have a feeling, Thorin, that when we talk about when the new, because the thing that people don't understand is that when Riot is saying we're changing from a revenue share structure into a stipend structure for payments, what that means is the entire team participation agreement, which is the contract between the teams and the league, is changing. And who knows what else they're changing, right? That's what they're announcing. But they might announce, They might just put into that contract language that they have the ability to create a merged Americas League, or they have a buyout ability of franchises, because obviously they would have to buy out some of the LCS and NCB LOL teams, because you can't have that many teams in the league. Like, we can't have a 17-team LPL, shit show bonanza. But, if we got down to maybe 12 teams, now we might be in an interesting state. But who knows what else they're cramming into that team participation agreement. Obviously the teams are going to read it and the teams are going to sign it, but there could be some stuff in there that they're not really willing to talk about yet. And
there's also just an insane angle where, for banter, you could just rerun some of those old 20 plus years ago conspiracy things of like NAFTA. They're making the deals. They're going to bring in the Amero. There's going to be no USA anymore. You could do a bag of sketch where you bring all that back if they bring Brazil in.
So what's funny too is that remember that when they bought out the LCS team, so when they bought out Evil Geniuses and Golden Guardians, they had to offer all the teams the same buyout, because that was a provision in the old team participation agreement. They might just get rid of that now. They might just say, we can offer buyouts to whomever we want at whatever price we want, and the rest of you don't get a say in that. But if you want this stipend instead of the rev share, and the stipend is higher, you just got to sign this document. And the teams might agree, because the teams might also want them to buy out some of the other teams. Does anybody really care if Dignitas is in this league, or any of the other teams going to be shedding a tear if Dignitas gets bought out and they get to merge with Brazil, which is probably what they want? No. So, and especially if that means that viewership is higher and the stipend goes up, because the only thing that Riot cares about is number go up, because they're making money off of microtransactions in the game, and it doesn't matter to them whether it probably does matter to them a bit, because they can charge Americans more money, but it matters a lot less than the sponsorship dollars that they would be foregoing by having more than half the audience be Brazilian, because CBLOL's viewership is higher. But I think it'd be a very interesting thing. I totally support a merger to Americas with CBLOL. It's worked in Valorant. I think it'd be good here. I think it'd be better entertainment. I think the owners would welcome it, because basically right now, doing nothing is the death spiral of viewership for the LCS, because it's only going, people will like, oh, it went up, but there are only so many tricks you can pull, because the next trick to get LCS viewership to go up is clearly to get Ibai and Kometo to stream it, which also doesn't fix the North American viewership problem, just gets you French and Spanish viewers. But once you do that, how do you get viewership to go up? Because you barely got it to go up this split by switching it back to weekends, hosting the LEC into it, allowing Cadril and Bayano to co-stream it, and you barely got an increase in viewership. And you didn't even get an increase in peak viewers, so you only got an increase in average viewers, which is more important. But yeah, it's not good. It's not good. So I think you got to do something drastic, and you're going to run out of co-streamers to add to this project that will meaningfully increase viewership at some point in time. Also, you have to, Kometo and Ibai may not want to do this. They've got their own brands, and do they want to be full-time League of Legends co-streamers only? Is that what they're into? Are they do they want to just be Cadril doing every single region? They got their own shit. They do the European stuff because it's advantageous to them, but I think there's diminishing returns with them doing other regions around the world. I don't think
people realize, one, I know to an American this will never make sense because you all worship mammon, but money actually isn't everything in life. They've already got loads of money and an amazing income source. Tons. And then secondly, again, just like I always say on this show, that I choose to care because I choose to engage in good faith, but I don't have to care about LCS at all, because checks notes, I'm not American. So as a result, neither are they. Why do they give a fuck whether LCS does well or not? Why do they even care? You could even argue it's better for them not to do LCS. Maybe some of those viewers tune into an LEC game. If they're on the East Coast, maybe it's better for them if they watch LEC. So you can't expect them to save you. Also, why should they? When you made that agreement, Riot, in good faith, that by paying $10 million, people would eventually get revenue in a healthy league, it was your job to make the league awesome. It was your job to make it really cool. If you haven't done that, that's your fault, mate. Everyone blames the teams and the players for some reason. They act like because the players can't beat fucking Weibo in a best of 5, like the LCS doesn't deserve revenue or fucking viewership. No. Listen, the players were the people who got paid $1 billion and they just play the best they can. The teams are trying to make the best squads they can, but you've limited them with your like hybrid WCS system of region locking. I don't know why you've done that. You took the only advantage, there were 2 advantages NA had. Shit talking, you've completely destroyed that. See the aforementioned conversation. That died in 2016. Then you've taken money, which was the superpower, the Batman booster gold superpower, and you've said, even though this money actually once upon a time would have literally made you the second best region in the world if you had totally open importing, we're going to region lock you and mean that money will only ever have like half an impact. And now it doesn't even matter because now the money's not even there. So now no one even comes from Europe who's the best. So now you've just got nothing left. Now you've painted yourself into a corner, and as always, if you Riot Games, you'll just blame everyone else and act like it was inevitable and it could only ever have gone this way. And all those things people said all along the way about how you were wrong weren't right. Just coincidentally, it didn't work for you. So same fucking Sisyphean rock. We've just pushed up the hill. Now let's watch it roll back down again.
You'll find this funny. Let me find the actual quote. But like Azael low-key flaming Riot for their previous hires while praising Mark Z was pretty fucking funny. So,
by the way, the idea that Cos Team Liquid won, and that's a cool story. Like Mark Z gets credit for the split. I don't even know what you know what's sad, Monty? I already knew this, but this is like, you know that thing. I don't know if you ever did this. Did you ever do like mock elections in your high school? Did you ever do that as like a social exercise? Did you have it?
Yeah.
Right. We had it once in my school. And the joke is, are you ready? You're going to love this, Monty. The 2 people who were the main candidates was a really popular person who was just relying on being really popular. And another person just figured out, because it's not a real election, you can just lie. And then he would say, like, if you vote for me, you get a motorbike and an arcade machine. And so lots of people go, oh, I'd vote for him. And these were the 2 candidates. And what it made me realize as a young boy, Monty, is, holy fuck, imagine if real elections worked this way. So the joke is, I was never under any, that's why I'm not a voter. But in this particular case, what you realize when you see how Mark Z is being treated, that again, as if he is the king of America and he's made the economy go up and he's created new jobs and he's making them play.
He's actually created fewer jobs at LCS, to be fair. And actually, jokingly,
it just shows how politics work. If you like the guy, you just claim everything good was him. And if you don't like him, you claim everything bad was him. That's how it works in America. That's how America is.
Esports Illustrated did an article about Mark Z, and Azael has a quote in here, which I think is just fucking hilarious. Azael sees Mark Z's authenticity as a boon to him as commissioner of the LCS, and the flow of communication he has established with the community through his tenure thus far has been a breath of fresh air. People don't see him as this polished executive person that you've never met, talked to, or seen, as Azael explained. I think that makes people trust that he gets it and that there's a decision, and that if there's a decision he makes that people don't agree with, I think people are going to be more likely to give someone like him the benefit of the doubt. So, the thing about it is that Azael is low-key acknowledging. He also says he has the experience and the understanding of the scene from working in it in all of these different positions. He, move on. He really understands what you need to be able to do to actually successfully run a show, which means that, by the way, Azael's been there for a long time. That is flaming everybody who came before. And we have advocated, and especially me, for putting people who understand esports and who are endemic esports people in these positions. But Riot insisted on hiring from the outside, hiring traditional sports clowns, hiring people who had never been in esports before, and put producers from other places, putting them into these positions. And now the casters are like, thank God we have Mark Z, who actually understands what the fuck is going on here and can communicate with our audience. So why didn't they do this earlier if it's such a good idea? But I do love that Azael is like low-key flaming their previous hires.
Which is hilarious because wasn't he loving that Naz woman when she was doing the fucking interview that was never released? Wasn't he loving Jackie Felling? So cool, post on it. God, shut the fuck up, mate. All you do is after the fact, in the most milquetoast way ever, imply it wasn't the way to do it. Like, You are truly a rioter through and through, mate. You are truly. Because here's what's mad. I'm just going to say this right now. Bro, I don't buy it for one fucking moment. This is pure PI hunch, Monty. This is my gut. This is a touch of evil level shit, mate. I don't buy that a guy who was a champion in 3-on-3 World of Warcraft arena had no toxicity in his past and was never condescending and never shit on people. I don't buy. What, if you don't know, people being the absolute peak of that was like fucking lords in fucking Europe in the medieval period. They looked down on everyone else who was below their levels, a piece of shit who didn't even understand how to live and shouldn't even be allowed to have a say in democracy. They were the gods of that game that walked among us all. Like, there's no way this guy, look, he's amazingly polished on camera. He's totally cleaned it up. He's done a mega job understanding the LCS format, but I just don't buy that. Like, what, he was just this fucking true blue guy the whole way. There's no way. If there was voice recordings, my G, from like 2007 or whatever, you'd be caught in 4K. You know what I mean? You'd be caught in 4K.
But he's Canadian, so he would have apologized immediately afterwards, right? For the but you know,
they're fucking losers, eh? What are you fucking doing? What are you doing in this game?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
But yeah, you know, I think Mark Z did a good job, and I've said this in terms of creating the product, but he just can't. Unfortunately, Mark Z is just a figurehead, and he can't actually control, you know, the big issues with the league. Also, hilariously, Thorin, here's something fun for you. You know, Naz, who was one of the goblins in the Riot Goblins with John Needham in Travis Gafford's interview. So she is the head of League of Legends esports globally now. And did you know that she just went on sabbatical because Riot offers sabbaticals? So right as they canceled the platform, the streaming platform, and all the teams are up in arms because the business of esports is failing, she was like, peace, I'm out. Goodbye. See you next year. She's the head of League of Legends esports, literally abandoning this in its most dire hour from the perspective of the teams, because now is the time where they have actually needed the most help out of any point in League of Legends history. Because at the start, they were just little teams that weren't paying a lot of money, and Riot was there to help prop them up with stipends. And then after, you know, when franchising came around, they had massive injections of venture capital. But now that they're needed, she's like, goodbye, see you later. It's just hilarious.
I had one message to the esports industry: stop giving positions of authority and authority to people who refuse and are allergic to responsibility. That is a recipe for disaster.
I mean, it's amazing that you would be like, I deserve a break. Right now, it's like, no, you know, the bat signal is in the sky. We fucking need Batman now. Are you Batman? Nah, I'm tired. It's too good. Meanwhile, it was funny. I was making my video on the LCS viewership today, and I was watching the interview that Travis did with just John Needham last year. And he admits in this video, he literally says that hosting the finals on Easter was suboptimal, but they had to do it because they had scheduling issues with the LCS finals. And so they had to kind of schedule it on Easter. And of course, the arena in Raleigh would not have been booked on Easter because who the fuck does that, right? Of course, there's no event happening in a stadium on that day.
Also, look at the state you picked, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, North Carolina.
Pick some godless state like New York or something, you idiot.
Exactly. Well, that's because the arenas that were booked in New York on Easter Sunday, Thor. Come on.
Sure, I guess, yeah. My bad.
Of course. So anyway, he goes and says that. And then they do the finals again this year on Easter Sunday in an arena that they own with no time crunch, considering all of the other 3 major regions still have their leagues ongoing. So literally last year, he says publicly, well, it was suboptimal. It wasn't optimal that we did this on Easter, but we had problems with booking the arena. And so we had to do what we had to do. This year, they have total control over it, their own fucking arena, and they still do it. It's just, you can't make this shit up, man. It's just too funny. It's just too funny. Whatever. And then they're like, LCS viewership isn't going down. It's just the North American viewers that are going down. We have all these Europeans and Brazilians now watching LCS. Woo, go us, woo.
Doesn't help any sponsor, of course.
Of course not. It doesn't actually help the sponsors. But it's okay. They have egg rolls, I guess, now. So bully for them. I like egg rolls. We'll take egg roll sponsors. Pagoda will probably offer you more value, more bang for your buck here on Last Free Nation. I'm telling you that right now. All right. Any final thoughts? I guess we didn't do LPL very much. You want to quickly touch on LPL? I will admit, Thorin, that I haven't seen the last 2 series to completion.
No, just do it next week then. Do it next week. We'll just run back a bit more in depth.
So tomorrow on my stream, I'm going to be doing some more of the more recent LPL games. But the reason I didn't do it, guys,
deep dive next week.
Yeah, the reason I didn't do it was I've been busy, and my son's birthday was today, so I didn't do a longer stream to finish that kind of series up.
I mean, it's always someone's birthday month. There's only 365 days in a year, whatever. So mathematically, almost everyone's got. Why don't you just love the game more?
I know it's crazy. It's crazy, guys. On my son's birthday, I wanted to spend more time with my son.
Selfish, but all right.
So we'll get to LPL. We'll get to LPL. And we'll also have Power Spike tomorrow, guys, and I will have seen the games by the time we go to Power Spike tomorrow. But obviously, NIP on a heater right now. Really exciting matches. The top 4 is, I mean, I have to say, I'm so glad NIP is doing better, because that was going to be the real tragedy of this season if Rookie's team wasn't competitive. So the fact that they've been doing better in the playoffs is a relief, even if they did kind of take out fan favorite lovable underdogs FPX.
No, but that should have happened. Like, if anything, I'll give you one LPL take on the way out the gate, since you obviously saw the NIP FPX one. Some of you went too far at the end of the split, where Care and Life got all that confidence from the fact that Milky Way was carrying, and you tried to make it like the team itself wasn't that bad. That series shows you it was only Milky Way the whole time. Because in that series, bro, that isn't even an L for him. He had one game he almost won himself. Like, he was doing the fucking players, man. He was going for them. His problem was, naively, like a proper Asian player, he played supportive. He went on Lee Sin, and he needed other people to kill them, and they didn't kill anyone, because the other players weren't that good. You know what I mean? They just, like, it was a miracle that team made it to where they did. I think it's crazy where they played it to.
I mean, also, like G2, NIP utilizing that lane swap was very smart. Versus a less experienced team like FPX. NIP would have prepared that. They would have been practiced. Rookie, obviously, he lived through that entire meta, so he's going to be, well oiled in that sense in terms of shot calling for the team. So it was a really good call. And I love the fact that we're seeing these lane swaps to take advantage of less experienced rosters out there. It's actually really fun. And I'm just happy we have lane swaps back in general, because I think they're intellectually very fascinating to watch. And I love them. So even a little bit of lane swapping, hopefully we get some of it at MSI before Riot stamps it out forever, whatever weird ass new invisible nerf that they decide to level at the game as a result of this play, no doubt is incoming, especially if it starts to hit like even probably a third of games. If like 33% of games start to be lane swaps, they're gonna do something. The hammer is gonna come down. So I'll enjoy it while I can. All right, guys, that's gonna do it. We are gonna have to skip viewer questions this week because we have a 4 horsemen in 7 hours.
We're gonna do them on that.
We'll see if we do some in the morning if we have some more time.
Okay.
But I need to sleep before that happens. So we go from 3-hour podcast to 3-hour podcast, and I have 7 hours to go wind down and get to bed after this.
By the way, anyone who doesn't pay and subscribe to the Discord to ask the question, we don't give a fuck if you care whether there's questions now or not. Like, your opinion literally doesn't matter. So don't worry about it.
It's for you guys to directly support us. So yeah, we've been excellent recently about getting through all your questions, guys. So I do apologize that we're not doing it this time, but I need to sleep. So we'll get to them next week, no doubt. Ask them again if you need to, and we will see you. There's going to be lots to talk about next week, guys, because we're going to have LEC playoffs winding down. We're going to have LCK playoffs wrapping up as well. So all of those finals are going to be coming on through. And the final, we'll only have the finals of LPL to talk about, which are happening on the 20th of April. So we'll have a little bit of preview for that, but lots of stuff to discuss and lots of your questions next week, we promise. So see you later.